Yeah, they're well, I think my guy set it for 5:30 p.m. here with these guys. What's the deal?
Oh, we're just fucking around. Get with it, chat.
Yeah, they're probably pissed.
They know
Let's
how it goes.
see. Oh, why is it showing this? Okay, so I see that we're live on Castle Club. Yeah, they're well, I think my guy said. All right, we're live on YouTube. Sweet. Shout out to you guys on YouTube. Let me make sure.
We're
Sorry guys, I
live
got
on
bills.
Rumble.
I'm doing this solo, all right? So I'm here with the fucking legend himself, Ian Carroll. Welcome, bro.
What's up, Aaron? Good to talk to you, man.
Happy to have you on here. So I see we're live. Okay, YouTube we're live, Rumble we're live, Council Club we're live. I think we should be live also on X. Let me double check that. Yes, I think we are live on X as well. Awesome, sweet. Okay, let me pin this. And then, cool. All right. I think we're live everywhere. Guys, welcome. Sorry for the delay. As you guys know, I think my guy scheduled it for 5:30 because he was going off of, because I told him like, oh yeah, we're going to go 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. And he assumed that I meant like Eastern Standard Time, but you're on the West Coast. So there was a little bit of time thing. And then we're down here with a hurricane. So everyone's like, oh yeah, the power probably went out. Oh yeah, they're not doing no stream. So
Nah,
yeah.
you're chilling.
Guys, welcome to the show. I got Ian Carroll in the house. I'm excited to have him on here. As you guys know, last time there was a little bit of a scheduling thing. He had something going on with Sneeko, and I got like sick or something. So we're here. We're kind of going to cover two different topics. We're going to cover Trump. We're going to cover Diddy, both assassinations. No after hours with girls because obviously there's a hurricane going on here in Florida. So I get to we got him all night pause, and it's going to be a good time, man. We're going to be able to go ahead and get your questions in now if you guys want. FNFSuperChat.com. And obviously go make sure you check out Ian Carroll on all of his platforms. He's on Twitter, going crazy on TikTok, and you're on YouTube as well. You made a YouTube channel not too long ago.
Really, y'all should just follow me on Twitter because that's where it's all at, and everywhere else fucking censors the hell out of me. I posted like 2 TikToks in the last month because I've just got strikes to hell, and
yeah, TikTok sucks, man. Well, actually,
I just have a TikTok to brag about my followers now. I don't actually use it.
Gotcha. Well, you made a really interesting TikTok, which about the people that are trying to buy it right now, but we could save that one for later on. Yeah, chat. Give me ones if audio and everything is good. We should be good, but we'll get this thing going here. I think we're good on everything. Give me ones in the chat, guys. If everything is good to go. Let me see here. I'm looking at the YouTubes and everything else.
Yeah, it's funny that the last time we were gonna chat, and I was on Sneeko's I kind of had already committed to Sneeko, and I actually went on Sneeko's and talked to him about Diddy, and we kind of like crashed a couple other parties, and we talked to DJ Academics.
Okay,
I don't know if you know DJ Academics.
I jumped in there for a bit, yeah.
Cool dude, but he is like so mainstream pilled about Diddy. It blew my mind. It was like, what am I even who am I talking to right now? He thinks that there's like no conspiracy, there's no sexual blackmail, there's like it's just Diddy doing gay stuff, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
There's a reason and a purpose. Funny. And we could talk about that too. So, Ian, real quick, I know who you are, but for those people that aren't aware of who you are, obviously I'm a big supporter of your work. Please introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, thanks, man. So I'm Ian Carroll, and I'm just a dude that just started asking questions about what the fuck is going on out here about a little over a year ago now, maybe a year and a half ago. And I started on TikTok and blew up really big on TikTok because I was just like, I didn't know shit. So I just started asking basic ass questions like who owns everything? How does the money flow? Who controls shit? Just asking like the big questions, trying to get down to like what's going on. And that naturally leads to questions about like intelligence agencies and questions about Israel and Mossad and the government and just, basically any conspiracy theory that you can think of, and just looking for actual evidence and trying to tease out like what's real and what's made up. And it's been a wild ride. It's a lot of fun. And so I kind of, I'm just a dude that looks shit up and thinks about it, and everything's kind of on the table. It's whatever's interesting to me.
Yeah, no, and you've done a great deep dive on the Diddy situation. I've covered that case more from the the federal criminal case, but you kind of have talked more about like the how it even got there. How he was able to do this for damn near 20 to 30 years, right? But we'll cover Trump first because this is what we were going to originally talk about before, because you actually have kind of like an alternate theory on what went down back in the July assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. Can you kind of take us through that?
Totally. Yeah, we sort of have like we kind of have some interesting new data on it too. Now that Trump has gone back to the same exact rally location again,
Hmm.
there was a second assassination attempt on him, and it's just as time has kind of progressed and the answers that we have and have not gotten have sort of shed a little bit of light on it. But I think the most obvious thing is that we don't have answers and we don't have like adequate investigations, because when that first Trump shooting happened, there obviously the internet was speculating all over the place and there was like a million theories about multiple shooters and like operations and inside jobs, and I mean, I don't feel like I have any clarity like or certainty about I know what happened. I just have some suspicions, and based upon what I see, it sort of adds up to I see a lot of patterns in the first Trump assassination attempt, with Thomas Matthew Crooks,
Hmm.
that looks to me an awful lot like a patsy who had no business taking a shot at the president, no business getting that close to the president, no business kind of understanding what was involved in that attempt. And somehow he wound up there with a rifle and apparently got some shots off. But there were a lot of sort of just like little data points that seemed to suggest that there is at least some sort of like complicity in the Secret Service or members of the Secret Service, although a lot of it was actually not the in like the normal Secret Service detail,
Hmm.
because a lot of Trump's Secret Service that day got directed to Jill Biden and to other people, and he wound up with a bunch of contractors that were sort of like one day guys, or like brought in
Some of them were
specifically for
like
that
HSI
rally.
agents, like because HSI heavily augments Secret Service, but like they're not
Yeah,
trained to the same level. And I'll be honest, like when I've done Secret Service details when I was an agent, like you're like, bro, get me the fuck out of here. I don't want to do this. It's kind of like almost a
exactly.
punishment. You don't want to be there because the Secret Service job sucks. Like I've told people this all the time. Like it's one of the worst agencies to work for if you want to be a federal investigator. But sorry, continue on.
Yep.
So yeah,
And it's hard as fuck too.
yeah,
And there's a point like there, and this is the thing, is that there's always kind of like multiple angles to consider, and you don't know which one is which, because on the one hand, sort of the more skeptical side is you're right that it's like they're not trained. Like you bring in these contractors and they're not trained for the type of protective detail that Secret Service entails. And so they're not really like ready for defending the president against a shooter.
yeah,
But on the other hand, that's also the exact same kind of thing that you would do if you were trying to plan an assassination and you had inside control over it and you could switch out all the regular Secret Service guys. That would be really useful to put in a bunch of your own compromised people that are going to like scramble the investigation and maybe obscure some evidence, maybe like delay a call that was supposed to be made, whatever it is.
mm-hmm.
And so the fact that we start out having like new guys on the block, so to speak, that it's not sort of like the core Secret Service detail, that's kind of suspicious in the first place. And when you couple that with all the incompetence in the investigation and in the placement of people and who was in what positions, there's a lot on the sort of Secret Service side of things that implies to me at least like a malicious level of incompetence. But to me, it looks a lot more like some level, like at least a portion of that cell was trying to let something happen or maybe acting to help it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thomas Matthew Crooks has all this weird shit around him where
Yeah,
he's training at this rifle range where the FBI also trains, where there's also these like connections to like Urich was also training at that range. There's been a lot of people speculating about this guy named Maxwell Urich being involved potentially. I don't know what I'd buy on that.
mm-hmm.
But he's got the Thomas Matthew Crooks has multiple cell phones that are apparently encrypted. He's got encrypted bank accounts apparently that have links to like allegedly Iran and stuff. But at the same time, we're told that he has no social media and they can't hack his phones. And so like that's the kind of stuff where maybe they're covering up incompetence, but if he was a patsy, that's the kind of thing we would see also of like, oh, sorry, there's no evidence and he has no social media and he just came out of nowhere and he's this lone crazy guy. So it's kind of this like dueling perspective where it could all be incompetence, but that's what you would try to make it look like if you were intentionally trying to assassinate Trump.
Yeah,
And I think the key to like the crux of the multiple shooter theories comes down to the sound evidence and sort of the video evidence, as in a lot of the videos, a lot of people did a lot of audio analysis about like the echo, the timing of the echoes, the sounds of the shots. And I don't know as I'm necessarily 100% convinced that the audio indicates that there's multiple weapons being fired. It sure sounds like there's 3 different weapons being fired. Like there's 2 different primary sort of unsuppressed rifles, and then a suppressed rifle round or 2 that get fired in there as well.
okay.
But it's you can't be certain off of that. And the video evidence, no one's really become super clear about finding anything that really indicated a second shooter in any of the video evidence. Like all of the stuff that was on the water tower is not convincing enough. It's like could just be kind of lens blur because it's so zoomed in.
Can you tell the people the water tower theory real quick? Because this is something that actually came up when I was doing, when I was breaking down the case from my end. And, to me at this point, I was like, to me, it does look like there's a sole shooter, but obviously I'm always open to other views. And this is actually one of the things I was excited to talk to you about because I know that this whole water tower thing came out and I know that you had made a video about it, whatever. Can you explain to my audience real quick what
Yeah,
that
when I made the
theory is?
video about the water tower, it was pretty early on, and it was sort of like, oh, this looks suspicious. We should look into this. Because what happened early on is a video surfaced that was, I think, from a steady cam, from like one of the live stream steady cams that's just in one location pointed in a direction. And when you crop in really, really far onto the top of the water tower in that video footage, the like dome on the top of the water tower, the little like top piece, it seems to like blur in a way that makes it look like there's kind of like a dark figure kind of coming out from one side and then going back behind and then kind of again. But it's really not clear that you can't be certain that you're actually seeing that. It could just be kind of like the camera lens sort of like figuring out the pixels and like it's hard to say. But then as more video footage came out, I started sifting through all of it, checking the water tower, checking the base of the water tower, and I didn't find any evidence that showed like a zip line coming down from it or anyone up on top of it. One of the things that supported that theory was that people did note that there was the van, I think it was, parked right. It might have been the car. There was a vehicle parked right underneath the water tower that we saw in a couple of the different video shots that had been there for some of the like quite some time before the shooting actually started. And so people were maybe speculating that someone had gotten there. And like you can go look at like Google Earth, and the ladder does lead up to the water tower. The ladder on that water tower does lead up on like the back side of it, so you would be
I can pull it up for the audience
view.
real quick. Is there a link you maybe have that I could, or do you want me to link them to your?
No,
TikTok
it would just be
video?
like a Google Earth view of it. I was just kind of zooming around in Google Earth,
Do you want me
and
to
it's
pull
just
up your
it's
TikTok
clear
video
enough on Google Earth that you can see that the ladder is on the back side of the tower, and it leads up one of the legs, and it leads up the dome on the backside in a way that if you were to go up and down that ladder, you would be pretty much obscured from view. So it's hard to say. Like it would be a pretty fucking huge risk to go up and down that ladder in this kind of a setting. And I feel like it's not possible that someone did go up and down the ladder because there was like the video that people were looking at well, maybe there were trees in front of it. I don't know. It's hard to say. I am not convinced that anyone was on the water tower.
Okay. Even though those shadow things came out.
Yeah. It's just like it was this one initial video and it went really viral because it sure looked like there was something up there. But it's like once you started to look at all the other evidence that came out, it didn't really corroborate the water tower. There was some stuff about the bullet trajectories that some other people went way deeper into.
Yeah.
About how it seemed like some of the trajectories of where you saw the bullets kind of impact the crowd in a couple of the videos didn't really line up with Crooks's angle of fire necessarily. It seemed like there was like two different angles of fire. But again, that's kind of circumstantial because the videos are not high quality and they're like very low frame rate relative to bullet, the speed of a bullet.
Yeah.
And so all of that is like circumstantial and kind of like vague. But for me, the thing where I stand now is that I think it's more likely that there was multiple shooters than that there was just the one. But that's not really based on the actual hard evidence from the scene as much as the hard evidence from the scene is sort of like fucked enough for me to have a lot of questions. And then I just am looking at the patterns of how presidential level assassinations play and how any high level assassination plays throughout history, especially when intelligence agencies are involved. And that's what starts to sort of just suggest to me that they wouldn't do it with a single guy, especially a dude that's like not a good shot. Like it starts to get to the point where when you really examine sort of the historical context of an assassination of this caliber and the evidence we have, it either seems to me that it has to be either Thomas Crooks acted alone and he was just a fucking, lone loser with a gun with no help, or like if the Secret Service is going to get involved and help this happen, they're not going to risk that compromise, like risk that operation getting exposed if they're not going to succeed, I would assume, right? Like if you're a compromised cell within the Secret Service, within the US government, and you're perpetrating a plot to assassinate Donald Trump, and your only plan is to have a lone gunman come up and like this kid, Matthew Thomas, who has like not a great shot. He's a fucking 20-year-old leftist that is poorly equipped, that is clearly not trained for this kind of a job in any serious way. If you're going to be a compromised cell within the government assassinating Trump, you're not going to put all your eggs in that kid's basket. Like
Yeah,
that would
seriously.
be retarded, right? You would want an operation that you'd be sure would succeed. At least the way I would see it. Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't
no,
fucking plan it out
for
that way,
absolutely. Another
right?
thing too is that you know, the other thing too is that like he missed those shots, like the cop like tried to get up on on the top of the
Yeah.
roof, and they kind of scared him. I think those cops that like scared him bought Trump the time to turn his head and make Matt whiff some of those shots because he was obviously nervous. Imagine you're trying to assassinate the president of the United States,
Exactly.
and the cops see you and you point the rifle at them, and they're like, "Oh
Heart
shit!"
starts
He falls
racing.
off. Yeah, you're like, "Oh, dude, I only got a few seconds now to make this
Fuck.
happen." You know,
And you just lost your train. You lost your train of sight. You have to turn back and recite, and you're
yeah.
freaking out.
So,
But like that
yeah.
being said, like the number of Secret Service agents that had to leave their posts and not be looking around, like there's multiple angles on this, and we could dissect each one. One good example is once you start to examine all the various video footage from around the building taken by cell phones. There was the first one that came out really early on where the guy was like behind the building and they were filming Thomas on the roof crawling up the roof,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everyone there like shouting and pointing like, look, he's on the roof.
Yep.
And that goes on for like 2 minutes before the guy shoots, right?
Yeah.
And later the dude that put out a lot of good video footage that was a lot clearer later on, Stu Beef, I forget his name. He had a weird username. His video was from around the other side, like kind of around the front of that building where you like facing the shooter a little more so. And then he later was in the parking lot in the back once the cops kind of brought him in and put him behind their car. And in his video footage, you can clearly see two plainclothes police officers with weapons drawn come from around the building where the original video was shot, where the whole crowd was pointing and looking at Thomas Crooks on the roof with his gun for like 2 minutes. So it like clearly shows that there were plainclothes police officers right where that video was being filmed, right where this whole crowd had formed, pointing at Thomas Crooks on the roof holding a gun for several minutes. And so then it's and these are all guys that are working in this building where all of these other like Secret Service agents left their posts and then and then the second guy left his post to go down and open the door
They
for
were
the guy
hot.
that like got
They
locked
claimed
out.
they weren't on the roof because they were hot.
Exactly. Like there's all these weird anomalies of like failure to be where you're supposed to be and just like most basic protection. And in the same region, the same sort of team of guys has plainclothes officers over by this crowd that have seen Crooks, and somehow no one has called this in. And so that's where it starts to get to like, I find it hard to believe that all that amalgamation of evidence, and there's more than just that. That's just kind of like some obvious ones that we remember. But that whole like body of evidence, that to me indicates at least some level of like a cover up or complicity or like intentional negligence on behalf of at least one or two of them, if not a lot of them. And and I guess what I'm saying is that the more I've thought about it and kind of just like let it settle for a while, the more I think that if any of them are intentionally complicit at all, then that's a full-on assassination plot, right? Like even if all you're doing is leaving a door open or turning the other way, leaving your post at the right time, that's an assassination plot. And the moment that you have Secret Service members in on an assassination plot to kill Trump, I don't believe that they would do it in any sort of shitty half-assed way. I don't think they're going to leave it up. Like you were never going to leave the JFK assassination up to Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah.
He was just there to fucking get caught and fire a shot. And so to me, that implies that there probably was another shooter, but at the same time, it's like, we don't have any evidence and it's probably been too long to actually locate or identify any other shooters.
Yeah.
There were people that were going into like, maybe there's a remote fired rifle hiding somewhere. Like Lord knows what kind of technology these guys could have.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a dude in the trees with a tree stand. And it's like, yeah, I don't know how to parse all that out. To me, that all just sounds like endless speculation, but we got a lot of questions, and all we saw was Kimberly Cheadle just fucking like obfuscating the truth,
Yeah.
lying to Congress, fucking covering her own ass, being an idiot. And then like Chris Wray, the FBI director, same story, just like blatantly not trying to do their job. And then you add in that they failed, like whoever tried to do this, whether it was a solo guy or not, that fails. And then what, like a month later, we get a second attempt. And the second attempt is even more tied in to sort of like the types of networks that you would see if our intelligence agencies were sort of trying to contract a patsy or a shooter. Because, you know,
Before we
a
get
lot
into
of
the second
times,
one real quick, because
yeah, what
the
you got?
second one, that's a whole other thing. So knowing what you know now, obviously you've done a deep dive on this. You've looked at this from different angles. You've seen other people kind of come to it. What do you think, like, and obviously when this first broke out in July, people were thinking there's two shooters. Some people weren't sure, etc. We've seen the testimony from the FBI. We've seen them, reveal some stuff on the investigation. It's still going. They're still, trying to get more information,
Yeah.
figure out if there was another shooter or whatever happened. What do you think at this point? What do you think transpired on that day, and who do you think was involved or culpable for this? Now that this dust has kind of settled a bit.
What I think is most likely,
Okay.
I don't feel certain or confident in like saying I know for sure, but what I think is most likely is that Crooks was probably surveilled for a long time and probably groomed for this role and probably approached in some format, probably provided with these phones by, some sort of handler and kind of given this equipment and this assignment by a handler.
So you think he was
And
put up to this? Like, this wasn't a crazy kid that decided, I don't
no,
like
I
Trump, I'm
don't
going to
think he
just
was
go
up
to
to this on
Butler.
his own.
Okay.
I doubt it.
Okay.
No, that's and maybe, but I don't think so. I think the most
Okay.
likely is that he was given those encrypted phones. He was given those, encrypted those like bank accounts and given this assignment and given a little bit of training probably. And I bet that he was told that the way would be cleared for him. Because it takes a whole different level of balls for a 20-year-old liberal to actually take a gun in there, fly a drone around there, like go like do this whole operation, get
It's
up on
kind
a
of
fucking roof
reckless.
with a gun.
It's kind of
Like
reckless.
yeah, like I know a lot of liberals, and I mean, a lot of them talk a big game, but like, find anyone that's 21 years old that'll actually get up there on that roof with a gun, like, And so
That
I
was
wouldn't be
ballsy.
surprised if there were handlers,
Fucking
and if
ballsy.
those handlers provided him with the shit and kind of told him like, this is your route, this is how you're gonna get up there at this time, and we'll make sure that you're cleared and no one will be watching you, because you would need to kind of like set those nerves at ease so this inexperienced kid feels like he can actually pull this off. Because if you were just a lone gunman trying to do this, you'd have to be fucking retarded to think that you would pull this off. Like, that's the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard. And the actual like route that he took, the location he took the shot from and everything, that's not a great like obviously a place where if you didn't know where Secret Service was and you were expecting them to run a real detail, that would not be a good place to be. They would fucking see you. You would get shot right away. Like,
Yep.
that's not a good plan, right? A better plan would be to have a longer gun and more training and go somewhere like the water tower or go somewhere like up in the trees, or like there's a whole fucking like stadium in the other direction across the street. Kind of, it's a little further away, so you'd have to be a good shot, but there's all kinds of like enclosed seating and stuff in that stadium that I'm pretty sure you can get a line of fire from. So like, if you were trying to do this as a lone gunman, I feel like there'd be way smarter ways to do it. And the way he did it, to me, just sort of implies that he was told it would be okay to be there, and that that's where he should shoot from. And I would assume that they had sort of given him a scenario of like, here's your plan. You take that shot. This is how you're going to get out. We'll run cover. We'll obfuscate the thing. You'll get away. You'll get paid, whatever it is. Or maybe you'll get arrested, and then we'll kind of like, we'll get you out on insane, whatever it is. Like, I bet that he was told a story that made him feel like he was going to be taken care of and like he was doing a good thing in some form.
Yeah.
And I would assume that if you're running, like, because the way I see it again is like,
Do you
it's
think
either
he
him
knew
on
he
his
was
own
gonna
or it's a
live?
real operation.
So you think like this wasn't like a self deletion mission? Like, you think that he went in thinking, I'll probably make it out of this thing
Good
alive?
point. That's the only way that I could imagine it being truly a lone gunman.
Okay.
And that's not out of the question, because like the dude had mental health issues. He looked the part for being ready to delete himself. Like, I would believe that if we got more evidence to kind of like confirm that all the Secret Service bungling of the operation and all the weird cover up that happened ever since was truly incompetence, I would totally believe it.
Okay.
And if we got some sort of confirmation that that is what happened, I would be like, totally fair play.
Okay.
But when I weigh in like all of the Secret Service weird shit that happened
Big blunders.
with the guys leaving and just kind of like just leaving the most obvious place to take a shot from, just wide open for minutes. And
Crazy, dude.
and places that they were like literally like the window that Greg and his buddy were supposed to be at is like literally overlooking that entire roof. That's like their one job, is to look at the roof where Thomas Crooks was crawling around on for multiple minutes. And there's like people shouting. There's a guy on the roof, like outside these open windows that you could, probably hear them all shout. So anyways, like if it is an operation and Crooks has any sort of help, I assume it's a real operation, because you're not going to get your hands dirty just to get caught. You're going to get your hands dirty so you can fucking succeed at your mission. And if you're running a real operation, then you'd have a real shooter somewhere hidden farther back, or like up and somewhere far smarter with a similar line of fire, would be my assumption. I mean, obviously I don't know how these things work, but that's what I would think, because you'd get a guy up in the trees in the back, or like up on the water tower with a zip line or something. Although I don't think we have evidence I think we have evidence that didn't happen. People were speculating even about maybe like in the space between the ceiling and the roof inside of the building, there's like all these little vents, and people were speculating that maybe someone could have been lying in there. And it's like, maybe, but like, I don't know.
What do you think about, so you think that so you think that he definitely had people that put him up to it, and he had some sort of assistance, which makes sense, because obviously this was a crazy thing to pull off. Do you, but we don't know who it is, right? Do you think they've been trying to say Iran, which I think is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, they looked like they had that
that
line all ready to go.
Yeah.
And that adds to my suspicion. Like multiple parts of that is they were ready to throw, like, imagine if we didn't have X and we didn't have all this media that was like us reporting on it, and they were allowed to give us the narrative.
Yeah.
They were ready to feed us like his bank accounts are tied to Iran.
Yep.
And Bibi Netanyahu had a fucking speech in front of Congress already like scheduled for the next week. And his speech was all about blaming Iran. And even though we'd already debunked it, he still went and gave basically the same speech. And he tried to pin that assassination attempt on Iran. And it just, I mean, it kind of, we all glossed over it on the internet because we were busy counting like 57 standing ovations or some stupid trash.
Yeah.
But Bibi blamed it on Iran. And that's like, just think about the timing of all of that just coincidentally. That's pretty fucking weird.
No, you're right. You're right. It is. It like, because he went right after all this happened. He was at Congress delivering his speech saying, I need more money. And then the FBI arrested this guy, which I did a whole case on that, saying that he was plotting to kill an American government official. This fucking guy, this murder for hire case out of where was it? Was it New York? I forget where exactly it was out of. But regardless, I mean, this is all wild to me that that all this transpired and they're trying to blame it on Iran, right? And then now, right, we see what's going on in Lebanon. We see the ground assault. And after Hezbollah, who are they going to go after next? They're going to go after Iran. And then you talk about October 7th and how, you got one of the most sophisticated borders in the world, and they were able to somehow get invaded by these dudes with RPGs and fucking paragliders. What the hell's going on? Right? It's
all very clean break report to me. I mean, it's got 100 shades of sort of like 9/11 taking us into Iraq, which is like, what's the link there, And now it's like they're reporting that they have intelligence sources saying there's credible threats on Trump's life from Iran. But it's like, yeah, Israel's the one that told us that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Where are these intelligence sources and why are they credible? And so like, I don't know. It just adds up to being very suspicious to me. So I have questions. And the way I see it is, if it was a lone gunman and I'm wrong, then it's like, who's hurt by that? Like my reputation a little bit, maybe. But if it was our own government plotting to pin it on Iran and kill Trump and get us into World War III, if that's what actually happened, like I would way rather be expecting that and looking for that and maybe be wrong and it's a lone gunman than to be like, it's for sure a lone gunman and be totally blindsided by them pinning it on Iran and taking us to war in Iran. So
and this dude was Pakistani,
I sort of like skew
too.
towards that.
The guy that they arrested,
well.
this guy for murder for hire, he's a fucking Pakistani. So, I mean, again, all of this just,
when was that? Was that like a week, like shortly after Crooks?
Yeah, not too long after Crooks. They fucking picked this guy up. And the hit allegedly was supposed to happen like a day or two before Crooks was arrested, so or shot. So it's just everything is just so weird in this situation. How I agree with you. Like if we didn't have independent media, they totally could have spun this as an Iranian hit, etc. I mean, if you look at, imagine, I was thinking about this literally when you mentioned that, like we have independent media, so people are able to get an alternative side. Imagine if we had independent media during 9/11.
Bingo, dude. For real.
Imagine.
Everything would have been different.
Do you think we would have
Imagine
made
the
it in Iraq?
dancing Israelis
Oh yeah,
happening on X.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
During nine, yeah, crazy.
yeah.
Because
And so that's why it's like, I think that there's almost like, I don't think that they're advanced enough to evolve and adapt to this digital age. I don't think that they can pull off this kind of shit anymore because honestly, the guys that like were in charge of all of this back in like Vietnam, 9/11 era, a lot of those eras were like, a lot of them were really fucking good at their job. Like the George H.W. Bush Vietnam CIA operations, a lot of them have never been exposed in a mainstream way to this day because they were so good at running these covert operations and keeping them all tight and not letting the media get them. And today it's like, not only do we have all this decentralized media, but a lot of them also suck ass at their fucking jobs. It's like Judith Miller, kind of a fucking trash. Like Christopher Wray, Kimberly Cheadle, whoever the fuck is in on these things, like they don't seem to be super great at it.
yeah,
Just based upon like how, I mean, I guess I might caveat that as in like, it looks like there's different intelligence agency operations going on. Like J6, there's a certain level of intelligence operation that happened during J6, a certain one that happened during Antifa. I don't know if it was necessarily the CIA directly, but some sort of covert groups that were co-opting these movements.
Mhm.
And they did a pretty fucking good job of that, of like co-opting and spinning a narrative and sort of like turning that on itself. But then you look at like the Trump assassination and like, dude, that shit got botched.
And his
Although to be
parents are
fair,
radio
it kind of
silent.
got lucky.
His parents didn't say anything, which is kind of weird.
You see the videos of his dad walking around with the person in the hood and the mask?
No, what the hell?
Oh, it's super weird, dude. So yeah, like literally the next, like 2 days later after the shooting, Crooks's dad is going to the grocery store with like a dude the same height as Crooks, a person, because we don't know their gender, and they're all hooded up and they've got sweatpants on and a hoodie, and the hoodie is cinched up tight around their head, and they have sunglasses and a mask, and they're like just like not answering any questions, just going to the grocery store and coming back. And it's like, who the fuck is that?
What?
Who the fuck is that? It was so weird. There was like 2 or 3 different videos that came out of him at the grocery store, and I think going into their house for a little bit there.
Wow.
And for a minute there, then it's like, okay, maybe it was Maxwell Urich on the roof and Thomas Crooks was actually not even there at all. And like, what the fuck is going on? So that's where like, I don't know what happened, but I know it's suspicious.
And then obviously he had that very weird Google search right before. How far was Oswald from JFK? Like,
I didn't actually know about that. He Googled that shit?
yeah, he Googled it. Yeah, he literally Googled it on his phone. Director Ray,
Whoa.
FBI Director Ray, actually talked about that because I reacted to the testimony. It was him and the director of the Secret Service after Cheadle resigned.
Yeah.
They were there, both of them talking. And which makes sense. And I actually said, like, yo, this is what needs to happen because the FBI is running a criminal investigation. Secret Service is running, like, their own, internal investigations.
Internal
answering.
investigation.
Yeah. So, and he said, like, yeah, the guy literally Googled how far was Oswald when he shot Kennedy. So clearly that kid wasn't based because he doesn't realize that Oswald wasn't really the shooter. But that's a whole other
Yeah,
conversation.
exactly.
Not
If
for
only he'd
YouTube,
known
right?
more about Oswald, maybe he would have known there was some red flags about his job that day.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, right? You should have known, like, you're going to be the patsy
Right.
too, stupid. But
That's fucking weird.
but okay, cool. So we can. I'm trying to think here. Anything else on this Crooks thing? Before
On the
we go,
first
segue.
shooter, that's a solid summary. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't really have answers. The second shooter did kind of shine a new light on it.
Take it away.
Just in the sense that like maybe it's 2 totally different attempts, 2 totally different lone gunmen, 2 totally different like cells or threats against Trump that just happened to align at the same. That could be. Who knows? Because Crooks definitely came from a different background and a different like pool than the second shooter did. And Ryan Routh is fascinating because we were all like Twitter journalists were all super on edge by the time Ryan Routh happened. And the moment that news broke, everyone just exploded into social media and just started downloading everything they could find about him.
Yeah.
And so there was a way
He
more
got banned
like
same day. He got banned immediately off of X.
yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so we like learned a lot more about Ryan Routh than we did about Thomas Matthew Crooks. And Routh had all kinds of ties to the Ukrainian paramilitary American operations over there. And that like if you don't understand sort of like the covert operations world, it would be easy to look at it and just be like, this is just a super weird solo dude that is like very Slava Ukraine.
Yeah,
But
trying to
like
get
when
money
you really
and
know about how intelligence agencies work, it looks a lot more like he was sort of like an adjacent asset that was intentionally sort of like a para-governmental asset that was intentionally running some sort of like paramilitary recruitment programs. But like based on the money that he allegedly had before he started doing this, and then he's flying to Ukraine multiple times, he's meeting with senators and meeting with people in our government and like recruiting Afghani special forces apparently on his fucking Facebook account, like super weird shit.
yeah.
That just all aligns with, and of course, like then one of the videos that I made at the time was that his second follow and his first follower when he started his X account was this woman named Kim Soon.
Oh yeah, I saw you talk about this. Let me
Sim
pull her up real
Kuhn. I
quick.
forget her name exactly. And she has CIA handler written all over her. She actually is ex-CIA in her bio, but she's also got this resume of like 3 other jobs that are all these like military industrial complex think
Soo
tank
Kim,
kind of
right?
things.
Soo Kim?
Yeah, Soo Kim. And we found her shit before she deleted it all, before Ralph got deleted off of everything, and before she made all of her shit private and scrubbed and everything. And it just kind of it all added up to like it looked to me like Ryan Routh, whether he was acting alone that day or not, he was tied into
This is her right here, right? Let me
yeah,
see.
Soo Kim.
Yeah.
Yep. Former CIA. I wonder if it
Oh, hold
says
on. Let
what
me
her
move it over
other.
here so
Can
they
you
can.
scroll back to the top
Yeah,
there?
let me see.
Because
Okay,
she was
so the
also
chat
like
can
an
see.
analyst at several sort of like intelligence think tanks and such. And her being his like as soon as he makes his X account, he follows her and she follows him. And
Okay.
and her account is private. So there's no reason to follow her if you don't know her and she's not going to follow you back. Um
This her,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, try that out. I bet that's her. Nope,
Or
not
no,
her.
this isn't her. My bad.
Nope. Um
Let's see. No, you can't even. Yeah, you can't.
yeah, and
You
so
can't even
it's just
find it,
like
man. Can't
yeah,
even
we
find
obviously
it.
we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But to me, it looks an awful lot like she's not necessarily a handler, but maybe a recruiter, maybe like a contact, whatever it is. Because there's all different levels of compartmentalization of these kind of paramilitary, operations. It could have just been like, I mean, well, then there's also, of course, there's the part where he's got this fucking rap sheet where he's getting arrested for all kinds of things, including possession of weapons of mass destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And the weapon of mass destruction that he had was like a fully automatic machine gun or something at some point. But it's like when you look at his like public life running like a tiny house company and shit like that, it's like, why the fuck does that guy have an automatic machine gun? And he got into like a full on like armed standoff with police at one point where he was like exchanging gunfire with police.
Oh, I didn't
And he
know
kept on
that.
getting
Was
let
this back
off.
in when he was in
Yeah,
the Carolinas?
his criminal record. Yeah, I don't remember if that was when he was in the Carolinas. I just had my notes up earlier on it, and then I put him away.
Yeah, this guy, he had a scratched off
Yeah,
serial number on his gun as well, and he's a felon. And so the FBI got him basically. If I could speak to the criminal side, basically what they did,
yeah,
chat,
bring it.
was they hit him with a felon in possession charge, which is like kind of like a standard boilerplate charge where if you're a convicted felon, they catch you with a gun, you're not supposed to have that gun. It's a typical federal charge that, the ATF charges all the time. But in this case, the FBI took it because of who this individual was. They're probably going to try to figure out if he's intelligence or anything else like that. Because obviously you had mentioned some just some intel links off of just the social media alone. So,
Yeah,
they're probably first thing they want to make sure is figure out, hey, what the hell are you doing here and everything else. And then this fucking note comes out that he wanted to give like $100,000 for anyone that could get the job done. Something like that. See that?
yeah, yeah. It's just like, what's going on here? This is weird.
Yeah.
Super weird. And the thing about his rap sheet that really sticks out to me is this 2002 felony for possession of a weapon of mass destruction is the fact that what he got as his sentence for that was just probation.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, yeah, right. So in 2000, and this is so 2002, he had already like in 2001 driving without a license, miscellaneous motor vehicle violation, license revoked, other misdemeanors, and for that probation. In 2002, all these other charges, probation. Possession of stolen goods in 2010, probation, suspended sentence. And so that's just exactly what you would see if an operative, someone adjacent to intelligence was kind of getting, caught with little things in the line of duty and just sort of like, yeah, just write it off,
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I wrong about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, if he's involved in some stuff, like, his handler can obviously look. We need some help with this.
And so it just kind of like, and it's especially the possession of weapon of mass destruction. That's a felony. It says class
crazy.
F felony is how it was sentenced, but then he was just given probation.
That is
and
wild.
all of that just kind of adds up to like,
why would the
that
whole
to
following
me looks like an asset.
The whole following a CIA individual, like first account you follow on X, is kind of weird.
Yeah,
how the
that's
fuck
a weird
would you know?
fucking person to follow with a private account too. She has a private account, so it's like you have to know who she is to go follow her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, I found a video on her right here. Here, I could share it with you.
Oh, for real?
Here, let me find.
Let's bring in Soo Kim. She's a former CIA.
Holy shit! Let me share this with
Hey,
you
let's
ninjas real
go.
fast.
Breaking new ground,
Yeah,
dude.
let me share this video with everybody in here. Give me 1 sec. Sorry, Chad. I'm not like a Zoom expert here, as you guys can tell. So let me hold on. Let me share this so everybody can do it. Everybody can see.
Yeah, it's the hurricane party. We're hanging out. We're having drinks.
Yeah, seriously, it is.
Everyone just chill
party.
the fuck out in the chat.
Okay, I think I
just
got
calm
this
down.
here. Is this it? No. Can I do it by link? Hold on.
I see it on the stream now, actually.
Yeah, I had it up for a
YouTube.
second. Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I just got to share it with you guys now.
Okay, I'm just lagging on the YouTube.
Hold on 1 sec. Because it's like, I'm doing OBS and all this other crap, so I'm just like trying to.
That's interesting. I don't think I ever even thought to look for videos of her, but that's like, duh.
Yeah,
the news was breaking so fast that week that it was just like,
dude, the news cycle was absolutely crazy. You know what? Maybe you know what I might have to do? I have to just let me move it to another thing, and then I'm just gonna move it to this screen over here and then share it. I think that's the best way to do it. Okay, can you guys see my screen here?
I see it.
Intelligence analyst.
Okay, you guys should. Okay, I think they
pretty
can
flattering
see
screenshot there.
Linguist and a current policy analyst at the RAND Corporation here in Washington. First, I want to get your take on the U.S. DPRK envoy Stephen Biegun's visit to the region. He's making his rounds in Asia, stopping in Japan, South Korea. Will be in.
Oh no, the chat can't say. They can just hear it. Maybe if I move it over here, then you guys can see. Can you guys see that now? I think the chat can see it now. You might not see it though, Ian.
China
I still see it on our
Thursday.
screen.
He is saying that the U.S. is ready to talk with Kim Jong-un. What will it take to get back to the table?
It's going to take a lot more than Stephen Biegun or Secretary Pompeo saying that it's the right time to talk to North Korea, that it's the opportunity that North Korea does not want to lose. We've seen that recently North Korea's lashed out against South Korea and the United States for their joint exercises. The rhetoric has been upped the ante, so we see that North Korea is not going to want to back down at this point. Unless Kim is at the point where he's very close to getting what he wants, he's
like
not
4
going
minutes.
to be toning down the rhetoric. He's not going to be treating South Korea any nicer than he has right now. So at this point, we have to think about just what we're trying to get with these working level talks. If we're going to be back at the table, let's say that President Trump and Kim Jong-un once again meet for their fourth or third round of summits, with nothing really to show, then we're actually putting ourselves in a tighter bind even.
How is the DPRK viewing this round of diplomacy right now with Biegun in the area, these trilateral talks? What are they to glean from what is happening at the moment?
Well, I think Kim Jong-un is actually enjoying the sight because it's exactly playing along just as he had hoped. We're seeing that the United States and South Korea, they're at a point where the alliance is actually being a little bit divisive, where South Korea is not really aligning with the United States' priorities. The South Korea-Japan trade spat even is actually wearing away at the trilateral
I think that's
alliance
enough, though, for us to understand what it's doing, right?
Encroachments and harsh.
Interesting. Yeah, but
because
it's weird that he would
what's
know.
interesting about that to me is that clearly she's like a relatively high up analyst in the Korean theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she's doing press conferences and news stuff, right? So it's interesting that someone like that would potentially also be a primary level contact for a guy like Ryan Routh over in the Ukraine theater, right?
It is weird. And like the fact that she's the first account he followed is weird too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I didn't look at I would have to go back and try to like parse through the dates to figure out if she was in the Korean theater at the time when he followed her and joined X and all that. I think she was, but regardless, obviously we have to do a ton of speculation. We're not going to know one way or the other what her real relationship to him is and what her real role is, but it's a data point. It's an indicator. And when that guy then shows up in fucking, Miami or wherever, Fort Lauderdale, with a Ukrainian, like a Russian made rifle and starts taking shots
with the serial number fucking scratched off.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like all of that adds up to a different type of sort of intelligence.
He was there for 12 hours too, Ian. Like that's the crazy part. He sat there and laid in for 12 hours. And the other thing that kills me, because like he got there at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then like they caught him like at lunchtime the next day. And I was like, how the fuck did he know to sit there for that long?
Yeah. I mean, that might have even been so actually you want to hear some spice?
Go ahead, yeah.
Because first question is like, if you remember back to the reporting, that was kind of an impromptu golf session. It was off the schedule, right? But if I remember correctly, people should double check me on this before they start going all crazy on the JQ here. But it was a certain guy that he was playing golf with, if I remember the reporting correctly, that like suggested they go and play golf at that course or something like that.
Yeah, let me look this up, who he played golf with. I think you made a video about this on TikTok, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I might have. I don't know if I went very far into who he was playing golf with. I think it was other guys that were going more into, because it was like Hannity was supposed to go and then he couldn't go. And people were starting to speculate of like who set it up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But he was playing golf with a certain kind of guy that day.
Chat, can you guys tell me who chat knows? Because someone mentioned. Let's see here.
I figure that your chat probably knows a lot of things.
Yeah, let me see here. Chat, tell me who.
Your chat is probably like half fucking incels and half based Chad motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. A suspect. I got this article here. Trump had a guy follow him. I'm looking. Who the hell was it? I'm looking at the chat too to see if they. Who was it that played with him? I know it was like someone. He had a connection to 9/11. This guy that he played golf with.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
That's what I'm remembering too.
It was. Yeah.
But so like to me, that just indicates that like Routh had some intelligence. He had some information, right?
Yeah.
And also like maybe a little bit of protection, because like you tell me that he was sitting outside of the fucking golf course with a rifle and a bunch of bulletproof plates, like ceramic plates and shit, kind of ready to go. And Secret Service never walked the perimeter. They never did a perimeter check on the golf course during like the whole morning. And like while Trump was there, it's like
they got lucky because they went beforehand to like the next hole he was gonna play at, and they were able to catch him there. But,
exactly right.
Yeah, that's how they got him. But like, but you're right. He did. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how the fuck did he know Trump was gonna be there a day before, especially since you said this was an impromptu golf.
Yeah, I don't think that really anyone knew it. Like. I think it was almost like it wasn't on his schedule for sure. So maybe it was the kind of thing where Trump was sort of saying like, hey, tomorrow, maybe let's go play golf. Maybe. Right. But like, to me, that indicates a pretty high level compromise of his inner circle relative to where he's choosing to go, because the public didn't know. So like, how close do you have to be to know he was going to be golfing that
they're
day?
Spamming Steve Witkoff in here. Let me. Is that who it was? Let me look this guy up real quick. Steve Witkoff. Yeah. This guy right here. Yep. This is the guy I think that was playing. Let me go ahead. Let me share screen with you ninjas real quick. Or let me share screen with you, Ian, so you can see. But I do have it up here for the chat to see. Here, hold on.
Yeah, check that early life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let's check that early life. It
that
never
guy.
fails.
Yep.
Let's. Okay.
It actually has it in his Wikipedia page that he was playing golf with Trump when that happened.
Under career? Yeah, on September 15th. Yep. Witkoff was playing golf with Trump at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida, when he was suspected assassination on Trump was attempted. Secret Service officers fired at the gunman. I'm trying to think here. What's this guy's connection, guys, to 9/11 again? There was a connection with him in 9/11.
Yeah, it's not on his wiki, but
Yeah, it's
obviously
definitely
that's
early
just the
life
first
every
layer.
single time. We already know
He
it.
is in real estate though. He's got some properties.
Okay, yep. American real estate investor, landlord, and founder of the Witkoff Group. I'm trying to think here.
So it's like maybe he's the leak, maybe it's someone else around Trump. It's hard to say. And I think that like, I mean, I'm really glad that it went off the way it did, so we didn't get to find out how good of a shot Ryan Routh was.
Yeah.
But I presume that Ryan Routh was probably far more qualified to be at that fence than
this guy.
Thomas Matthews Brooks
Oh
was.
yeah, this dude was using like I don't know why that gun isn't like optimal for what he was trying to do. Like I don't know why he had
the
like, an AK.
Ryan Routh or
Ryan
Crooks?
Routh. Crooks had a good gun.
Yeah,
Routh,
what gun did Routh wind up having? Because
Like
the
an
news
AK
was reporting an AK-47.
Yeah, it's SKS. It's like kind of like a AK-47.
Word.
Similar.
You don't want to fucking take an AK-47 to a sniper battle.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think Trump was a lot further out this time than, or was he further out? Maybe he was. But
And
yeah,
so
I'm
that's
trying to
another
think
piece
here.
that kind of makes me skeptical of this bigger sort of like intelligence agency play, because like that's fucking retarded. Like, why would you not just be sending a dude with a real long gun to take these shots? Like, so I don't really know what to make of it. Like I don't feel like it's very likely that it's just multiple lone gunmen, but it could be. But if it is intelligence agencies, it's like, are you guys really that fucking dumb?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to go full tinfoil hat, it's like, shit, maybe it's an inside game and they're actually sending incompetent assassins after him in order to like take them down and boost his ratings and actually like make Trump the underdog and get him to win because they want Trump in. It's like, that's the real,
That's the
like,
full tinfoil.
that's where you really start cooking with tinfoil in here.
Yeah.
So, you know, I consider it all. I listen to it all. Because the way I look at it is like, you don't like, there's this fucking made up belief these days, especially on the left, that like if a sound enters your ears, you immediately believe it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you fucking don't. You're allowed to just listen to shit. And with conspiracy theorists, often it's like a lot of them, you know, a lot of people on the internet are fucking crazy and they're making up weird shit. Like but some of them are fucking geniuses and some of them are on the right trail and some of them have found something that no one else has found. And if you're not listening to any of them just because you like are afraid of misinformation, then you're not going to know what's fucking going on. But if you start listening to them all and you heard Alex Jones talking about atrazine like 10 years ago, then you're a lot more prepared for when everyone is suddenly turning gay around you and like cutting their dicks off. Because you're like, okay, I kind of get what's going on here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I try to listen to all of it. And
no,
like,
I
take it
agree
all
with you. Yeah, I'd love to get other perspectives, which is why I like to talk with you, because you make me think about things that I didn't think about. You know, I mean, hell,
exactly. That's why I love talking to you, is because not only do you like to talk about different perspectives, but you like also you're not afraid to kind of like tease into the ideas, but then also provide your perspective without trying to like argue away other people's ideas. It's like a pretty rare discussion quality that I think more and more people in this sort of like, a lot of us are on the right-ish, but it's sort of just like this middle kind of like, I mean, really it's everyone that's kind of JQ'd. It's like people that are willing to ask the right questions and like have real discussions. And it's so refreshing to like do investigations in that space with all the homies, because we kind of all are just like working together to find the truth. And it's,
and
I mean,
you
it's
know,
the future,
obviously
really.
I could put my law enforcement hat on, but like you can't discount other potential situations, right? We always used to have a saying like, nothing is a coincidence. So, you know, the fact that this guy was able to put himself there 12 hours ahead of time, lay in, he slept there. He obviously brought food. He set himself up. He had like a little fucking like camp right there pretty much. And he waited until like the sun came out, the birds chirping and shit. And then he just sat there until lunchtime. He was like, all right, I'm going to get this shot off. Like the only thing that kept Trump from like getting a hit was the Secret Service had, I guess, you know, thank God, the mindset to realize, oh, you know what, they probably want to kill this guy. Let's go ahead and go out to the next hole just ahead and do a quick little sweep. And bam, they fucking find the guy. And they had to shoot. They actually had to discharge their firearms at this fucking guy. So, and that tells me that like he probably had because they saw the barrel protruding out of like a fence or something like that. And then like you said, when you look at his history with him going to Ukraine, the guy kind of seems off edge. I watched one of his interviews.
Oh, he
was talking
looks
about
fucking weird. Yeah.
Blue hair and shit. Like, and then obviously you look at his criminal history and stuff. Something is off. And then he clearly has, whether it's he's involved or he has knowledge, he has links to intelligence agencies. That's strange that he would go ahead and follow someone like this random like Asian woman that like was former CIA, like for North Korea. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is going on here? So like, there's so many things here that there's so many more questions that could be asked. Luckily, this guy's alive. So I'm hoping the FBI is doing their due diligence and asking this guy a bunch of tough questions. We'll see what happens. The criminal case, like I tell you, is a cut and dry felon in possession case. I don't know if they're gonna do a superseding indictment and hit him with something else. I mean, I could look it up real quick while you talk about it, but
they might threaten him with it to try to get him to talk more, right? Like, I bet there's all kinds of mind games they could be playing with him to try to get information.
While we pull that up, so give us.
Yeah, well, while we pull that up, I'll kind of wrap it all up with put a bow on it all, right? Because then we got the first assassination attempt, the second assassination attempt, and then Trump goes back to Butler and sort of like stomps the ground where he first got shot in the ear. And I just want to quickly remind us all how fucking badass it was for Trump to come out on stage at the same stage again, and now there's like 100,000 people in the crowd, and they put the same fucking chart back up, and he walks on the stage and he's like, as I was saying.
Yeah.
Like, what
that was funny.
G, dude.
That was
hilarious.
That was actually fun.
But also it's worth noting that the fucking security was proper tight the second time. There was fucking Secret Service all over those sloped roofs. They had it dialed in, nothing went down. And so it's like that was refreshing, and I don't really know what to make of that. Like, I don't think the threat is gone by any means. I expect another attempt. And also there's this speculation about this other like potential directed energy weapon or chemical weapon attack at an indoor rally where a bunch of the people that were behind Trump and to his like right sort of all got these weird chemical burn like symptoms after the rally or something. That was a weird one too. So it's like, to me, it adds up.
So I got his thing right now. Sorry, keep going, and then I'll show you.
Pull it up.
Okay, so interesting stuff. So it looks like they hit him with some new charges. I'm looking here. Dude, this is weird. So you might have to look at it on your Rumble screen or YouTube screen. I'm going to make it big.
Yeah, what are you looking up?
I'm looking. I have it up right now. If you look at the stream, Ian, because I don't know why. Like, I can't share a screen with you and then also have the audience.
Oh, it's easy. No worries.
So it says here, right to silence and counsel. Defendant's invocation of right to silence and counsel. The defendant named above does hereby invoke his right to remain silent and to counsel with respect to any and all questioning or interrogation, regardless of the subject matter, including but not limited to matters that may bear on or relate to arrests, searches, and seizures, bail, pretrial release, or detention evidence at trial. The defendant requests the U.S. Attorney ensure that this invocation of rights is honored by forwarding a copy of it to all law enforcement agencies, government officials, or employees associated with the investigation of any matters related to the defendant. Okay, this is fucking weird because I'll tell you this, I've never seen a court filing to formalize a defendant's right to silence. This is weird, bro. I'm not, you know what this tells me? He got a bunch of visits from intelligence agencies probably, is what I'm thinking, is that
interesting
that they had to file this because they probably said, well, you know what? The Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, all this shit doesn't apply to you, motherfucker. This is national security. Who sent you? Because I'm looking here. They hit him with a superseding indictment. They upped the charges. Attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate, possession of a firearm and furtherance of crime of violence, assaulting a federal officer, found in possession of firearm and ammunition, possession of firearm with an obliterated serial number. So originally was, found in possession and then firearm with a possession of firearm with an obliterated serial number. Now, dude, they upped it. Attempted it. I've never seen. What the fuck charges did? Okay, let's go to the indictment. So that's weird, dude. I've never seen a formal document. It's called the Invocation of Rights to Silence by Counsel. I've never seen that before. Because it's normally, hey, I don't want to talk, and it is what it is. You don't talk to them.
Yeah,
but the fact that they had to file something like that.
What date was it filed on?
It was filed on the 16th.
The 16th.
Yeah, so like a day later.
Oh, yeah, I see it there.
So
interesting.
Okay, exhibit and witness list. What the fuck? All right, let's look at some of this stuff. This is
I'm gonna dig into that later too.
Yeah. This is fucking weird, man.
So you've never seen anything like that before, huh?
An invocation of rights like that pushed by the courts? No, dude, never.
Interesting.
And then we got.
I mean, it makes sense. Like if what we're speculating on is at all true, he would get fucking a lot of visits.
Yes.
From his buddies in the intel agencies.
Yep. And then he filed this exhibit and witness list. Crime fighting pays police organization honors super citizen article. What the fuck? This is weird. And this is from 1991. Crime fighting pays police organization honors super citizen. So
I see two different exhibit and witness lists, one from the 23rd and one from the 24th.
Yeah, so he puts this fucking article here about himself from 1991, how he fights crime. I'm assuming he's doing this to kind of show his character.
Yeah, I found that article when I was digging into him where he like chased down a robber or something and like beat him up.
Interesting. Yeah, so he filed that probably on his behalf to make him, to show, you know, good moral character or something like that. Let's see the indictment. That's what I want to look at. Where is it? Because I'm assuming he's been indicted by now because there's new charges on him. Okay, here we go. Boom. Here's the indictment. Okay. So, and then let's see. Order detention. Okay, so he's still detained. Certificate of compliance. All right, let's pull up this indictment real quick. And I can send this to you too, Ian, if you want.
I'm actually in Court Listener right now looking through them too.
Okay, you are?
In
Okay.
parallel to you.
Okay, so I got the indictment here. So
what date was it filed on?
This one was filed on September 24th, 2024. So literally like 9 days later, they indicted him, which I predicted they would do it ASAP.
Yep.
So look at this. 18 U.S.C. 351C, attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate. I've never seen this charge before. Holy shit.
Really?
Yeah, this is, I can't think of the last time they've actually charged this. Possession of a firearm and furtherance a crime of violence. So this is a much more serious version of felon in possession of a firearm. Assaulting a federal officer, yeah, because the Secret Service agent shot at him. So that's that makes sense why they would hit him with this. And then felon in possession of a firearm. Yeah, so they gave him a superseding indictment on more serious charges. But obviously this one, let me look at this charge here. 18 U.S.C. 351C, attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate. Let me look this up. Well, how much time this carries. 18 U.S.C. 351C.
It's kind of interesting how everything's getting memory hold because there's so much news coming out, but it's like, this is super relevant. And like, no one's talked about this shit yet as far as I'm aware.
And you were talking about it right now. No one's even like talked about that he got a superseding indictment with new charges on this. How much time does this carry? This carries, okay, Supreme Court assassination, kidnapping, adult penalties. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's C, designated.
It's literally a charge that you're completely unfamiliar with?
Yeah, like
that's wild.
I've never seen it charged before because I mean this doesn't happen. But okay, yeah, so it says because they hit him with 18 U.S.C. 351C. So in this case, C says whoever attempts to kill or kidnap any individual designated in subsection of this section shall be punished by imprisonment for any terms of years or for life. So it's completely open.
Heavy.
He can get up to life for this charge. Wow. Okay.
I mean, it makes sense. Like from a justice standpoint, it's like he should get up to life for attempting to assassinate the president, even if all he actually did was possess a firearm in the wrong place. But like, we all know what he actually did.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how the court is treating it, and how these other filings are coming in here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dig through those more later tonight.
But yeah, no, definitely. I could send you this stuff too if you want. But yeah. So yeah, they upped the charges here. So obviously it's way more serious. They might have upped it after, because didn't that letter come out that he had like he was putting $100,000 out to kill the president or some stupid shit?
Oh
like that?
Yeah, well, wasn't it that it got leaked to the press? Like, I'm pretty sure that like.
So it wasn't supposed to be found.
Only way. Yeah, because he was already in jail. It's like the only way it got out is if someone in the law enforcement agencies leaked it out. And I remember it was getting criticized at the time of everyone was like, okay, so you guys are just literally putting, like, the government is putting a bounty out on behalf of Ralph?
Yeah. You're right.
Fucking how the fuck crazy, is he going to get it out, right?
Fucking crazy.
It was super weird.
But sorry, did I interrupt you before I pulled this whole new charges thing out? You were making
No, not really. I was just kind of wrapping everything up and looking at how once Trump went back to Butler and how badass it was, and sort of like, now that we've got that whole package of how those assassinations went, it's like, personally, I kind of think there's going to be another attempt. But what I'm really worried about is actually a 9/11 style event. It's like, and you understand 9/11, like, look at the global geopolitical climate right now. Like, the tension in the Middle East, Israel's extreme desire to go to war with this new big country over there, like Iran, think Iraq, and all the fucking people that have come across our southern border that could be ISIS cells, Israeli terror cells, anyone could have come across our border. And so like all the pieces are in place, and that like everything is primed like a powder keg for any sort of, Muslim terror attack that you can pin on Iran and send us to war with Iran. Because if they were to do that before Trump gets elected, it wouldn't matter how much Trump didn't want to go to World War III. There would be no other option at that point. So that's my biggest concern, and I really hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you had the wheels turning for me when you said, had we not had independent media, this assassination attempts would have 100% been spun as an Iran situation. Because you're right, Bibi came to the United States right after that happened, and
fully scheduled out,
and went full on. Iran is the problem. Iran. Then we arrest this Pakistani who allegedly was working for Iran. And then, J.D. Vance at the RNC, his first time he talks to the media, is talking about Iran. So, yeah, dude, if we didn't have alternative media where people are saying this is bullshit, the American public would have went hook, line, sinker. Iran is trying to kill our president. Iran's trying to do everything. And
they're a nuclear threat. They're trying to kill Israel.
Yeah.
And it's the same old story. It's the same old story as forever. And Israel's wanted to take down Iran for the longest time.
Iraq 2.0.
They're the only other nuclear armed nation in the Middle East.
Yep.
So,
so with that said, okay, so we can transition over to Diddy. And I know this one is really in the weeds. You did a space yesterday, which I had the pleasure of being able to join in a little bit. But you absolutely did a fantastic job on there.
that was a ton of fun. Thanks, man.
No, it was great.
It was good to get you in there at the end too, to like get a little unhinged at the end.
Yeah.
You know how it was great to get you in there to say some of the things
how
that
uncomfortable
I'm,
they were.
Careful about saying.
Yeah, you know how uncomfortable they were when you're like, I know you don't care about talking shit about Israel.
Oh,
I was like,
so
fuck that. I can see everyone's like butthole clenching to space. Like, oh no. So and we went into it, but yeah, dude. So I guess because my audience is they're fairly familiar with the criminal case, but let's talk more about what led up to that, because you have like a whole thing with his associates and how he was what he was doing this for, how he was doing it. I'll just kind of turn it over to you, bro, and you take your time and kind of explain to the people how this started, how he's done this, who his associates are, etc. Because I anticipate that some of these people might get indicted that you're going to mention here.
Yeah, well, I mean, first let's start here at the end, and then we can rewind to the beginning. Because actually, just today, a new court document just got filed that's not like some big thing or anything, but it's talking about the discovery process that's going on between the two parties right now. And so like where we're at right now is he got arrested a long time ago. They raided his shit. They got a bunch of it. Well, they raided his shit. They got a bunch of shit from him. And then they later arrested him. He's now in jail and he's asking for a speedy trial. He's asking to get tried next year, which is kind of weird on its own as far as I can tell.
Yeah, they won't give him bond, which I'm surprised. I thought he'd get bond, honestly. They're not giving it to him. Yeah,
right. Well, I mean, the fact that he didn't, to me, that speaks a lot to what, like, the scope of what they're trying to prosecute and the scope of what they have evidence of of the wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And this document that talks about the discovery process, quote, discovery in this case is voluminous, totaling several terabytes of electronic material and consists primarily of the following categories: electronically stored information belonging to the defendant, cell phones, laptops, tablets, hard drives, cloud accounts, etc. Electronically stored information of third parties, cell phones, laptops, tablets, etc. Business records from financial institutions, phone companies, hotels, airlines, and other businesses. Physical evidence seized in searches of the defendant's residence. Law enforcement records. And then it goes into the government has been in close coordination. It talks about how long it's taking to transfer and download all this information. It's saying that it's taking multiple days to download all this data. And to me, it sounds an awful lot like they're describing terabytes of video footage. It sounds like they're talking about an entire hard drive of sexual blackmail video. And it is voluminous. And so it's just a sort of confirmation that like they do have what we think that they have on him, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then this other lawyer, Tony Bigby, is bringing this other class action lawsuit sort of for like 120 victims
out of Texas, right?
Kids involved. Yeah, out of Texas.
Yeah.
Where Rod's he's a little less credible if you look into Rod's lawyer's history.
Hey Ian, I think your internet might be.
Yeah, the internet's dying a little here.
Okay, if Chat, can you guys hear him, or was he
It's
like cutting off a
me.
little bit? It's you? Okay, I think you're good now, though. I can see you clearly. No, I hear a little bit of choppiness. See, crazy that this happens right when we're talking about this.
I tried hotspotting for a second, but now I'm back on my regular.
Okay, all right. I think you're
Yeah,
good
I'm
now.
on Starlink where I'm at, and it's like kind of hit and miss.
Yeah. Sorry about that, chat. We're good now, though. Go ahead, bro.
That's how it goes.
So yeah, summary real quick. He said that the basically discovery through the discovery process, they're saying, holy shit, he wants a speedy trial, but I think his defense is the one that filed that said we need more time, or is it the government that said we need more time?
No, it's the government that said they want. Well, I don't know if we've been told whether or not anyone's saying they need more time. As far as I'm aware, and I've not looked extensively into it. I just looked briefly yesterday.
Yeah.
Is that Diddy and his lawyers asked for a speedy trial, which
makes sense.
Seemed kind of weird because they would want more time to prepare defense.
Yeah, but you know why he wants a
right?
speedy trial? Normally, so when people ask for a speedy trial, it's because they're locked up.
Okay.
That's the only time people ask for a speedy trial. But
Yeah.
in a case like this, a speedy trial might not be the move. But he probably is suffering so much, he's like, fuck this, I just want a speedy trial.
Yeah. The other thing that occurred to me is that it could be that he wants a speedy trial because he wants to get tried as soon as possible before more and more and more and more evidence comes out, and before any other whistleblowers come out. Like, because basically every month that goes on now, it's just more tapes come out, more whistleblowers, more evidence, more people get fucked. And if he is tied into a bigger network of like trafficking and blackmail and stuff, then everyone else in that network is also at risk the more stuff that starts to come out. So anyways, briefly, let's rewind to the whole setup and kind of like tell the setup of the Diddy case without all the fucking fear and caveats about what we do and don't know, because it's pretty obvious what's going on here. So we'll do like the based version of the Diddy setup. And then there's a whole bunch of new sources that are kind of like people might not be thinking of or aware of that we are getting a lot of information on, like this allegedly Kim Porter book. You heard about this thing?
Oh, I want you to go into that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, this thing's pretty interesting. And the guy that put it out, the author, recently did an interview that shed a lot of light on what's going on with it. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But the Diddy setup basically, and I assume your audience is relatively familiar with this.
Take
like
it from the
he
beginning
was like a young
as if they have no
rapper
idea.
kid.
Take it from the beginning as if they have no idea. Take your time.
Cool word. So Diddy's like 21, 22 years old, getting into the rap game, volunteering at a record label, like working his way up. And he gets noticed by this old Jewish record executive named Clive Davis, who's like in his 40s or 50s at that point. And he's like been running the game for a long time. Lots of ties to the mob because the music industry is full of mob connections and money laundering because they kind of built the modern music industry. And
guys, Clive Davis is sound effect. You guys already know. Early life.
Yeah.
Keep on.
Early life. And he was managing stars like the Grateful Dead and Janis Joplin, like all through the 70s and 80s and 90s. And then Diddy comes on the scene in the early 90s, and he is bringing Tupac and Biggie up into fame. And we all kind of know the Biggie and Tupac story, and that's getting brought right back up because Diddy's right in the middle of those shootings. But once Tupac and Biggie are out of the way, we'll talk more about that shooting when we get to this book. Jay-Z was actually like the kid underneath Biggie. He was like living in Biggie's shadow. And once Biggie was out of the way, Jay-Z and Diddy became like the pair, and Diddy brought Jay-Z up with him, and they became kind of like the two kings of the industry. And Diddy is like managing his own label that like Clive basically funds an entire label called Bad Boy Records for Diddy when he's like 24 or 25 years old. And Bad Boy starts like putting out all these great rappers, and like, he kind of becomes the king of the industry. He dates J-Lo for a long time. There's all kinds of rumors and like allegations of assault, allegations that he's shot people, that he blew up Kid Cudi's car, that are getting whispered around in the industry. And none of it gets officially accused until very recently. But everyone kind of knew that Diddy was fucking shady, and he was friends with everyone from like Ashton Kutcher to Kamala Harris to like Obama, like all those stars, you name it. Diddy is everywhere. Like, and he's throwing these parties, and he's famous for throwing these freak off parties.
And for the young people, real quick, just to add more credence to what you're saying, the young people might not know this. Like, if you're born in like the 90s, if you were born in the 90s like us and you're old like us, You saw Diddy everywhere in the early 2000s and 90s, bro. He was literally fucking everywhere. And he was actually one of the few rappers that I saw, he would go ahead and make friends with a lot of these like Caucasian big A-list celebrities like the Ashton Kutchers, etc.
Leonardo
DiCaprio. Like everyone got along with Diddy. Like he wasn't like one of these people. He was able to like transcend culture and backgrounds with different types of people in the early 2000s and the 90s. These Gen Zers, they're probably like, Diddy, who the fuck is that? Or I heard some of his songs.
Because he's fucking irrelevant these days.
Yeah, he's irrelevant.
Except like he's still so powerful behind the scenes, even though he doesn't make good music, and he's like, no one gives a shit who he is, but he actually is like fucking powerful behind the scenes.
Very. But he was all over the place in the early 2000s. For the audience that doesn't know, dude, the guy in the early 2000s, you couldn't fucking avoid him. He was everywhere, dude. But
I can't think of who would be similar to him in today's rap industry, but I'm sure there's a parallel to someone here today.
I'm trying to think who, because I'm trying to give an example.
I mean, to be fair, he's still on top of the game. So anyone you would compare him to in today's new rap industry, Diddy's above them. Like Diddy made whoever's, running today's rap industry. And all those new guns, these new guys are now like licking their chops to move up the ladder, I would assume. Jay-Z is definitely licking his chops to move up the ladder and take over that fucking throne.
I'll say this. Diddy is like kind of like almost like Drake, but he didn't make hit records. He's everywhere, but like he didn't make hit records, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
Drake was definitely at these parties. Drake was definitely getting down at the freak offs.
I believe it.
And so then Diddy does all this shit throughout, and the industry rumors all throughout his career, but like we don't really get anything. We get a couple of like little things that get like basically like a guy gets shot, but then this other rapper takes the bid and goes to prison for Diddy. And he's basically just protected his whole career until recently. And his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, drops a lawsuit alleging all sorts of really fucked up physical abuse, rape, like drugs, violence, horrible stuff. I forgot we're on YouTube, so I'm going to start to like,
you're
chat.
fine.
You're going to have to just like, you'll know what I'm saying. And so he's doing all these horrible things. And Cassie makes all kinds of allegations, and the lawsuit sits out there for a couple days, and then Diddy settles for a large unknown sum of money.
I heard 33 million, but I don't know.
I'd believe it.
Yeah, I heard 33 million. And it's funny because he said he was gonna fight it, and then like literally like in 24 hours he settles, like you said. Yeah.
And then someone whispered to him of like, dude, don't fight it, you're screwed.
I think she had the
video.
And
later, video from the hotel came out. Like there was plenty of evidence. It was not, she was gonna win, but it was out long enough that everyone saw it, everyone knew about it, and then everyone knew that he settled. And so suddenly a whole wave of lawsuits came in from victims, from all kinds of people. And most people didn't really notice any of the other lawsuits until Lil Rod. And Lil Rod brought a banger of a lawsuit. This is kind of the one that blew the whole thing wide open. This is the one that
I'll pull it up for the audience
heard
as you
about
talk.
Diddy.
I'll pull it up for the people
that was
as you
Lil
talk.
Rod.
Go ahead.
And Lil Rod alleged that Diddy was running a video blackmail ring where he had his mansions wired up with cameras. Allegedly he was like transporting women for nefarious purposes all around the country. Some of them were underage at these parties. There was drugs being given to people without their knowledge. There was all kinds of SA in every direction. It's just like all kinds of crazy stuff. Like he has direct testimony about witnessing unalivings and stuff like that. So it's just like a wild lawsuit. It's worth just reading because it's so jam-packed with like action and evidence, and there's photos in it. He's like, there are sex tapes in it. There's all kinds of gay stuff in it. And basically it alleges that Diddy's running like a gay blackmail ring where he's like getting people to do gay stuff on camera, whether they know it or not. And then he's using that as blackmail and kind of creating this whole culture of like promiscuous gay debauchery with a lot of drugs involved and often minors involved. And that lawsuit really broke it open. Since then, there's been a lot of developments. And at first, people were kind of skeptical. It's like, we don't want to speculate. We don't know. But like, let's be real. When we look at it, it's pretty freaking clear that Diddy was put in this position by the Jewish record executives above him that are all tied into the mob. And the mob has longstanding ties to the blackmail industries as well as to Israel and their blackmail industries with Epstein. And then B, Diddy clearly is involved in the trafficking networks because he's getting all of these, women and underage women, the prostitutes and stuff like that. He's tied into drug networks. There's lots of allegations of hip hop stars moving drugs. And he's clearly got blackmail on people, and he's protected by something federal at the federal level because it talks about in the lawsuit how his security guy could make federal and local law enforcement bugger off.
Fahim Muhammad, right?
Yes, Fahim Muhammad,
Yeah.
who was also
I got his
the
picture right here for the
security
audience.
guard for Michael Jackson.
Shit.
And Fahim Muhammad has a real estate degree, and he's got a whole like hundreds of acres of land right on the border of Tijuana and San Diego with the border wall on his property. So there's just all these different directions of like what the hell is going on. And lots of stuff has come out since that lawsuit. In particular, this lawyer in Texas has alleged that he now represents 120 victims and counting. He says that there's kids that were as young as 9 years old when the abuse happened in that lawsuit. He alleges that lots of people are going to get named, lots of people are going to go down, is what he's saying. Corporations are going to go down. He's like, this dude, this lawyer, Bigby, is not shy about making big claims, and he's got a pretty high-powered history. He's like definitely a more credible lawyer than some of the other lawyers we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And then this book drops, and this is really interesting. It's called Kim's Last Words, and it's published by Jamal T. Millwood, which is like a whole Tupac kind of homage rabbit hole there, if you don't know. And then for Kimberly A. Porter. And what the allegation is, this got put on Amazon like 2 weeks ago or something, and then after 4 or 5 days, it got pulled.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm glad I got it in time, because what it says it is this is a diary, like a journal, a book that was being written by Kim Porter, who is Diddy's ex-wife, who died mysteriously of pneumonia, right at a time when all sorts of other people were dying of pneumonia all around Diddy. And she allegedly wrote these words herself, and we're compiling them on a drive. And it tells the story of how she met Diddy and her whole life around Diddy, and lots of the scandals that Diddy was involved in. And then of Diddy kind of like, of her wanting to get out, and then her stealing some of Diddy's blackmail tapes from his vault in order to create like a security, blanket, so to speak, of a vault, so that if he ever came for her, she could release it. And then the very last page of this book is her writing that she's getting sick, she's getting pneumonia, and she's writing the last pages here while she's waiting for the ambulance to come and get her. And she writes, "Diddy got me, I'm dead." Basically.
Wow.
And it's like, what is this, and how could we ever trust it? And at first it's like, you can't trust it. At first, this is just total hearsay on the internet. Someone's just doing a cash grab, right? But then when you read it, it's like, it's pretty detailed, and it's detailed in the way that implies that it feels like someone was there for these conversations, and it feels like she's actually remembering real conversations between Diddy and Jay-Z, and Diddy and Pac, and Diddy and Al B. Sure, and all these things. And it makes all kinds of crazy allegations, like wild, like gay allegations, wild conspiracy allegations about what Diddy did to other people and in the industry, that he ordered the hit on Pac, and then sort of halfway ordered and allowed the hit on Biggie to happen. It actually kind of alleges that the entire beef between Diddy and Pac that led to Tupac getting shot actually started because Diddy wanted to have a threesome with Tupac and Kim Porter, and Tupac was like, "No, dude, get out of here. I don't want
And that's all in this book. That's on this book.
That's what it says. Yeah, it says that Diddy, because Diddy was
That's
really
her
fond
words.
of that. Yeah. Let me read you one of the most effed up quotes in here.
Sure, go ahead.
This is about the first time that Kim played with Diddy's booty hole, because he begged her to. Clive had already been grooming Diddy's booty hole real good. So Clive had taught Diddy all about the booty hole.
Really? So
yeah.
Okay.
And then he asked Kim, like, he wanted Kim to start playing with it.
Wow. So let me get this straight. So Diddy and Clive Davis were lovers?
Oh yeah. Clive groomed Diddy into the gay world. Yeah. So Clive was like 40 or 50, and Diddy's like this young 20-something-year-old black thug. And Clive picked him up, and I'm sure that Diddy was already fucking doing whatever he wanted to do. But Clive, the strong rumors in this book and in the industry all over the place, people are alleging that Clive Davis and Diddy were lovers.
Because I was going to ask you this, and before you read that thing, because I was like, okay, because when I heard all this stuff come out, I was like, okay, is Diddy actually a homosexual, or does he do it to have power over people and blackmail them, right?
Oh, it sounds like he's more gay than straight. based upon what most of the people in the industry are saying. Not just this book at all, although this book is totally on the same page as that.
Okay.
But basically everyone in the industry I'm hearing talk about it says that Diddy is more interested in men than women.
Really?
Kind of here nor there.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry.
And you can kind of extract that from the lawsuits too, based upon the types of things he likes to watch. Like when you read Cassie's lawsuit, it's like kind of sounds like he's more interested in what type of dude and dong is in the picture than his own girl. I mean, first off, he likes watching other dudes rail his girl. So, but quote, the first time he said he just wanted to experiment, try something new. I was grossed out, but he kept begging. He said it would only be this one time, and he was just curious. I was only 20 at the time. I said, what the hell? I hated it. He bled from it, and there was shit on it. I left him alone after that. And that's just like the first chapter. That's just the last sentence of the first chapter. That's it just warming up. This book like gets wild.
Wow. And it got pulled off Amazon.
Say again?
And you said it literally was on Amazon for a few days. It got pulled, right?
Yeah, it got pulled. Yeah.
Do we know who pulled it? Was it Diddy's like legal team or?
The guy that is in charge of publishing it, the guy that's publishing it under this pseudonym, he recently did a interview on The Art of Dialogue, which is super enlightening as to what this is. And to me, it lent a lot of credibility to this book. Because the guy has broken other whistleblower testimony before. He's been involved in other legal cases before. He alleges that he was approached. He's a white guy. And he alleges that he was approached by sources close to Kim, which you assume are the people that Kim sent this flash drive of all this stuff to when she died. Mm-hmm. They apparently approached him and said, it's time and we want you to release this. Here's the flash drive with what's on it. And he vetted what was on the flash drive, and it was all of these like pages of documents that she had written, along with a whole bunch of video files from the vault, the ones that Kim had stolen from the vault. And he says that he has seen the videos and he intends to release the videos. And he also says that he intends to allow people to forensically examine the sort of like metadata of the flash drive in order to kind of corroborate it and all that.
Okay.
And you know, everyone should make their own judgment call about it. You know, you should watch it for yourself and kind of judge whether you think it's real or not. To me, it lent some credibility to it. It's still kind of a trust me, bro, but all combined, it adds to the picture in a way that fits right in. And if it is real, this book is pretty enlightening in terms of what it's talking about. It talks about why Jay-Z is on the scene and how Jay-Z basically like ratted Biggie and Tupac out so that he could climb the ladder because he was sick of being in Biggie's shadow. It names a lot of names about who was sleeping with who in terms of like male rappers with male rappers. Talks about what was happening at the parties. So it's if people can get their hands on this book, it's worth getting your hands on. It's only like 40 pages. It's, you know, a 1 hour read.
Wow, is that
couple
short?
bucks on the internet. I'm sure it'll go back up somewhere at some point, but that adds a whole new layer to the story in terms of like where Diddy came from and what his life story actually was and the kinds of things that he's been doing all along. And it kind of basically it just fills in and cements all the rumors that we've all already heard. It's like we've all heard the rumor that Diddy killed Pac. We've all heard the rumor that Diddy has gay freak-offs. We've heard the rumor that Jay-Z is fucked up. But like that kind of puts texture to it all if it's true. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is this Big B guy that just came out. And then the other aspect that I don't think we've talked about together, but is super fun tinfoil, dude. Do you remember the Trump Doral hotel shooter? It was from 2018.
Yeah.
It'd be worth searching this on YouTube and pulling up a tab on YouTube just so we can show people the visual. Because a lot of people saw parts of this video at one point, but they haven't thought about it in 3 or 4 years. And if they just see a clip of it, they'll remember the guy a little bit. Because so what happened is back in 2018, this white dude walks into Trump Hotel in Doral, Florida, I think it is. It's like the Doral Hotel in Miami, Florida. And he's got a gun and he just starts shooting the gun into the air. And he like just kind of walks around. He drapes an enormous flag over the front desk, pulls the chandelier off the ceiling, and shoots a gun a little bit, and then just stands around, smashes some shit, and waits for the cops to show up. And then the cops show up and he kind of has like a half-assed firefight with them.
And
then he just kind of like runs off and then gets arrested.
Yeah, I'm showing this right now on the screen for them. This guy, he drapes like an American flag kind of on the front, and he's like throwing shit around. He's trying to attack the camera. Yeah, this dude's a fucking weirdo.
Can you scroll way forwards into the middle of the video where he's sitting in the room getting interrogated?
Yeah, let me do that right now.
Because that sort of is the iconic shot of it, is when he's in that, like, in the hospital later getting interviewed by the police.
Okay.
And in that interview, he says some crazy stuff.
Okay, so
and
they
at the
got
time, it was like, oh, this guy's an insane lunatic. Like, what is he even talking about? This
shootout
dude
with
is
them.
clearly...
And for those of you that are wondering, guys, Doral is maybe like 15, 20 minutes from here, from Miami. It's a little town outside the city.
Closing in on the suspect.
Oh, it looks like this video does not include
Yeah,
his
this
interview.
video doesn't show it. Let me see if I can find it here somewhere.
Yeah. Because at the time, the interview was gibberish. It was like, basically like just cue conspiracy theories and like all this other stuff.
Oh,
but he alleged that he was a Diddy sex slave.
I got it right here.
And
Here
this,
he is sitting here.
Yeah, and this is before anyone knew about P. Diddy in the public at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, here he is with like a gown. Is there a certain part you want me to play?
Yeah.
It's like 35 minutes.
That's it.
Is there a
Doesn't
part-
matter. Like, we don't actually
Anywhere?
need them to
You
hear
just wanna hear a
anything
little
from
bit?
it really necessarily.
But
It's
he
like
wanted
30
the
minutes long in
electrical
its
college
entirety.
vote.
Right.
Which is the Republican vote, basically.
It sounds
according to
crazy.
it, okay? He didn't get the popular vote. Okay?
I hear you.
So I went through the whole interview. It's like 30 minutes long. I transcribed the whole thing with AI and then went back, and his voice is so fucking weird that I had to like edit it all to make sure to like get it all right. And analyze everything he's saying. And like, basically, he alleges, before anyone knew about Diddy, that he was a male Diddy sex slave that Diddy would have at his house in order to bang Cassie for him. And he alleges that he had a bunch of sex with Diddy and Cassie, and that he overheard a whole bunch of stuff when he was doing it, and that he knows all these things about the industry based upon like what he saw and what he heard. And then he says that he also went and did a bunch of his own research online, and that's how. And so then it's like, you don't know what that he's saying is like actually because he witnessed it, and what is because he researched it online with like his mid-low IQ and kind of was like. So it's like it's impossible to know what about it is complete made up bullshit tinfoil, and what about it is like
But he said
actually
in
an
2018,
eyewitness
way
testimony.
before anybody even know about any of this stuff. This is 6 years ago.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so that's why, like, that was the first thing that went off in my mind of like, oh shit, that's like puts a whole new light on this dude. And I went back and looked at it, and it's like, you got to give it a little credibility, because like that's not the kind of claim you make up. That's not the kind of claim you can just pull out of nowhere years before anyone knows it's real.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff he says about the hip hop industry, the stuff that is like closer to Diddy, like he says a lot about Trump and about the Illuminati and all these other things. And that's maybe far removed from Diddy. So I'm assuming that's from internet research and extrapolation. But the stuff that's like closer to Diddy seems more and more like maybe he knew something, maybe he heard something. And one of the interesting things he alleges that rappers are flying drugs around on all their private jets. He alleges that the whole hip hop industry is using the private jets to transport large volumes of drugs for the black markets, because private jets don't get screened by the DEA or by customs.
Well, that's what got Rollo banged up. Rollo was like smuggling like thousands of pounds of this shit on the private jets. So, you know, the Juice WRLD killed himself because he was about to get caught with drugs on a private jet. So
bingo.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it was Juice WRLD I was just thinking about, right? He had,
overdosed.
well, didn't he have like a heart attack while he was getting raided or something?
What happened was he had like a bunch of drugs and he just like swallowed them.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
'cause he,
so in the mainstream reporting, when I found that reporting on it, they claim it was like he had a heart attack. They didn't mention that he'd taken the drugs, but it's like clearly, you know.
Yeah, I think he took a bunch of drugs.
Heart attack for a 21-year-old kid.
I think just got out of prison, but yeah, I covered the Rollo case. He was moving like thousands of pounds of weed from California back to Georgia.
Bingo. And when you look into what rappers have private jets, Diddy is famous for having one of the most, like, his jet is known for being intercontinental in its range, meaning it can fly outside of North America. That's not every private jet can do that. Jay-Z has a really big private jet. It's one of the biggest ones. Drake has a really big private jet. Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, 50 Cent, Travis Scott. And so you start to just kind of like think it through, and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And Diddy's all talking about liquid cocaine, or like, you know, the cocaine in the baby oil, the GHB in the baby. And this Doral shooter guy in this interview, he's talking about liquid cocaine in the bottles of liquor. So he's just saying a lot of things that like line up with what we know about Diddy today.
Yeah.
And he's also making these other allegations about the hip hop industry and what's going on there. And he talks about like the Black Boule and the Illuminati and stuff like that, which is like just fun fun conspiracy theory shit to just kind of ponder because of how bizarre it all was.
You know, I'm sure the detective that was interviewing him was like, "This guy's off his rocker." But now you fast forward,
and you'll
6
know
years forward.
you know how these interviews go, so you can hear while he's doing it. You can hear that the detective is like entertaining him enough so that the guy trusts the detective.
Of course.
But then it'll get off topic enough. The detective will kind of be like, "Yeah, so like, tell me. I want to hear about your family. Like, let's fucking stop talking
about Diddy.
Trump is like whatever."
Yeah, because like you're gonna write it off like this guy's just a fucking crazy fuck, but like he's saying it with a bunch of this stuff with like a crazy amount of accuracy, you know.
Yeah. And basically, the funny irony of what it is what it sounds like. What the guy's basically alleging is he's saying, "I went to the Trump hotel and shot the place up just to send a message, like knowing I was going to get arrested. Obviously, like I went and got myself arrested, got in a firefight, could have gotten killed, just to send Trump the message that you're not safe. They're going to try to kill you. You got to heighten your security and like you're the savior." And we got to look out for you, and you're doing great, but just like take your shit seriously. And this is kind of coming back around now in 2024 as Diddy's coming up, and I'm watching this tape, and it's like they just tried to kill Trump twice, and I'm like, shit,
wow,
dude, maybe this crazy guy's onto some shit. Like,
this crazy guy knew what the fuck was gonna happen? Holy shit, man!
Everyone should maybe have one schizophrenic friend. Is all I'm saying.
Where's this guy at now? Is he in jail still, or what? Like,
yeah, my understanding is that he's still in jail. His name is Jonathan Odie. Okay. ODI, and I think he's in jail in Miami, serving several years. The court proceedings took forever. I don't think he actually really like finished his trial until maybe like 2020 or something like that. There was a rumor that went around that he was missing, and I looked into it, and as far as I can tell, that's just bullshit internet gossip that got run with.
Interesting. I'm gonna see if I can. So here he is. I'll have put it here on screen. This was Odie Jonathan, date file 5/21/2018. They got the state case number, charges, murder 2, weapon, aggravated battery. Got hit with a bunch of those. Let's see here. Let's fast forward all the way to 2024. What's the latest thing? What the fuck? Oh no, hold on. It's at the top. Let's see. I got it up on screen right now. Okay, report. Please set for 10/10/2024. What? The case is still going?
Yeah, right.
What the fuck, bro? The Florida's criminal
That's
justice
weird,
system is
right?
trash, bro.
That's a 6-year-long case.
God damn.
And all he did was walk into a hotel and shoot the ceiling.
Yeah.
I guess he fired rounds at the police, but he didn't hit any of them, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Holy shit. Let me see.
I don't know. I've got questions about why it's taking so long. It's like, is there more going on here? Like, is there more to the story? I don't know. I mean,
I'm looking at the.
I put the tinfoil on and just start cooking with something like that because that's a crazy story and it's tons of fun. And he says all kinds of other things too. Like the private jets thing is just one of the more concrete ones that sounds pretty believable. But a lot of the other stuff he talks about is like pretty fun to dig into also, like the Black Boule and like all these other Illuminati things he's talking about. He starts talking about like the Illuminati playing cards and Lord knows what.
Damn. So so you were describing to me how like, so can you talk to us about like how Diddy like ran his organization, what he would do here? Because we talked about the lawsuit that
totally. So now we've got all these data points. Let's like zoom out and sort of talk about like and not really mince words. Like everything I'm about to say is kind of speculation, right?
Okay.
Based upon the evidence that we have. Okay. So just treat everything I'm about to say like speculation. And I'm just going to not mince words about what I kind of think. This is just my opinion.
Yeah, the facts you've gathered, this is kind of the conclusion that you've come to, right?
Yeah, from what we know right now, it looks to me like Diddy was running a sexual blackmail ring in the music industry on behalf of his mob handlers, his Jewish mob handlers, that is like the background of the music industry and has been for a long time. And that is probably tied to Israel and Mossad. Not necessarily like Mossad is telling them everything to do, but just in the sense that like those tapes are probably making their way back to Israel because they're very, very valuable. And they're, blackmail on all these powerful American celebrities and politicians and sports stars. And so if those are in the hands of Jewish mobsters in the music industry, you better be sure that Israeli intelligence is in communication with them and has some access to them as well. And so he's running this sexual blackmail ring by basically being in the middle of Hollywood. He's famous. He throws all these crazy parties, and those parties sort of have tiers where like lots of people get invited, and then the after party is sort of like, if you know, you know, and you can stay. And they're definitely like all fucking each other, but they're also pretty clearly also fucking young child stars like Justin Bieber, like Usher when he was younger, lots of those guys, lots of boys, lots of girls. But it also sounds like they are trafficking children in from the trafficking industry, like not kids of fame, not kids from Hollywood, but actually just like disposable children. And I'm starting to suspect that lots of kids are being killed or just dying from this abuse or from some of the like more sick, dark kind of rooms that are happening at some of the parties, probably. Because that's kind of coming out of the whistleblower space, and people are still afraid to talk about that more like, you know, the unalive kind of stuff. There's drugs everywhere in every direction. Everyone's doing all kinds of drugs willingly and unwillingly. And we know that from lots of lawsuits.
Yeah.
And it all adds up to sort of like the guy was put in place in order to manage our culture, in order to manage the music industry, in order to create blackmail and create debauchery, to fill the prisons, to sort of like debase the culture, to undermine the family, to undermine black culture. Like, it just looks like that's what's been going on for decades here. And then he starts to get high on his own supply of power and just like gets more and more reckless and more and more reckless. And they are protecting him all through this time. But it seems like eventually it got hard enough to protect him, or enough came out, or like maybe like it kind of looks like Cassie just was brave enough to file a lawsuit at the right time when it was like the climate was as such that it was hard to kind of put a lid on it, and her lawsuit was salacious enough, and then it spurred enough other people to want to file lawsuits that they were kind of like did the math and realized like, we got to cut ties with Diddy. We can't protect him from this, and he's already a liability. And I assume they've already got Jay-Z ready to step in and fill his shoes, because everyone in the industry is talking about how Jay-Z is just as bad as Diddy. Jay-Z's at all these parties, DJ Khaled is at these parties, Drake is at these parties, all these guys are fucking each other. They're all swapping wives, and they're all swapping booty holes. They're all throwing baby oil around like crazy.
Baby oil.
Basically every male rapper that runs in those circles, it sounds like, and I mean, obviously it's not all of them, but at this point it seems like it's more of them than not, because that kind of seems like how you have gotten a record deal over the last 30 years is like, have some sort of blackmail on you, be willing to do some sort of gay stuff, you know, do some favors for some people. The whole industry feels pretty damn corrupt at this point. That's the overview of what's going on. And that implies that Diddy is tied into the human trafficking networks in some amount, whether it's Diddy directly or whether it's his handlers like the mobsters, Fahim Muhammad, the people around him that are just supplying kids and girls and stuff. It implies that he's definitely tuned into the drug networks, obviously. He's tuned into the weapons and illegal weapons networks. So he's tied all throughout these black market industries.
Well, yeah, he had
an
AR-15 with the serial numbers obliterated in one of his homes.
Exactly. So it's hard to understand exactly how much Diddy was in charge of his operation, but I find it impossible to believe that he was actually at the top in any way, like both from how he was brought up and put into position by Clive Davis, and then later Lucien Grange was overseeing him, same early life story. And Lucien Grange is the CEO of Universal Music Group, and Universal is like 1/3 of the music industry right now. Universal Music Group manages Taylor Swift, like all of the satanic weird stuff that's happening in music right now. A lot of those songs are coming out of Universal Music Group, and a lot of these record executives are related to each other, tied into each other. Like Lucien Grange's son, Elliot Grange. Here's a fun one. Elliot Grange is at Atlantic Records. He's in sort of like in one of the other thirds. There's like 3 big music kind of like
pull this guy up. His name
of.
is Elliot Grange, you said?
Yeah, Elliot Grange. Okay. That's Lucien Grange's son. Lucien is in charge of Diddy and Universal Music Group. Elliot Grange is coming up through the ranks over at Atlantic Records, and he just recently changed and got a new position and got elevated. But Elliot is in charge of Ice Spice, right? Okay. And you remember how Ice Spice suddenly is best friends with Taylor Swift?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, together. Why is like
Elliot Grange? What's the other
Taylor
one?
Swift
was the other
hanging
name
out
again?
with the twerk girl, like the Down syndrome twerk girl, right?
Who's the other? Elliot. I got Elliot Grange here, and then who was the other one?
His dad, Lucien Grange.
Lucien Grange. Let me look this up. And I look at the early life every single time.
And so Elliot Grange is like coming up through the ranks, and his star that he brought on the scene is Ice Spice. Like that's his like twerk star, and she's his number one star. And then it just so happens that his number one star, Ice Spice, just happens to become best friends with Lucian Grange's number one star, like Daddy's top star, Taylor Swift. So to me, that looks an awful lot like Taylor Swift has a contract for her boyfriend and she has a contract for her best friend. And that's how you can start to promote this like degeneracy in the Taylor Swift crowd by just get Ice Spice up there with no clothes on and make her shake her ass, like, because that's all she does.
Upside down cross to the Super Bowl and all this other bullshit throwing up satanic signs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that's just to show that like the whole music industry, they're all tied together. Like they all know each other. They've all worked together. They've all brought each other up. Almost every single one of the executives are Jewish, and a lot of them probably or certainly have ties to the Jewish mob in various forms. And all of sort of like, and this has been how the music industry has been for a long time, is like Jewish mobsters and black gangsters teaming up to make music, but also to, you know, sell drugs, launder money, throw parties, all this other stuff. And that's just the history of the music industry. And today it's particularly perverse because it includes all this other child stuff and all this SA and all this blackmail. And it's a pretty damn powerful operation when you look at the people that he knew and the kind of protection that he had and the sort of like, when you start to think about the kind of people that are implicated by all these tapes and just how much of Hollywood is about to crumble if it all comes out, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, there was a lawyer that's representing a woman that got assaulted by Diddy she's suing Diddy and she's suing Trey Songz. She's suing Diddy because Diddy provided the alcohol to Trey Songz when he assaulted her. That's not really the important thing. The point is that this lawyer alleges that she saw Diddy doing sexual acts with another individual who's way more famous than him.
Fuck, you just cut out, dude. What'd you say?
I said this lawyer.
She alleged that she saw Diddy doing something.
Sexual acts with a celebrity who's way bigger than him. And I was like, who the fuck out? Who is she talking about? Like, what, you know, who the hell is she talking about here? So, you know, obviously people are, you know, going wild with the speculations. I mean, Piers Morgan got hit with a cease and desist when he even brought up Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yup. I mean, I'm going to stand on business and say allegedly, just my personal opinion based on nothing, like making it all up. Jay-Z and Beyonce are worse than Diddy, and they're like neck deep in all this, and they need to be protected because Jay-Z and Beyonce go all the way to Obama, the Clintons, you know, Kamal. Like they swim in way more powerful political circles, business circles. Like if they get exposed, all kinds of other shit gets exposed. And they are particularly satanic, and a lot of there's like imagery and sort of like stuff. And so that might also lead more into these other darker kind of human trafficking directions. It's kind of hard to say, but like, I mean, and then there's like allegations from women like Jaguar Wright, you know, that are super, super unhinged about Jay-Z, all the way back to like just sort of like the rumors in the industry, smaller allegation stuff in these lawsuits. So at this point, you know, we've only got so much disclosure so far, but it's pretty dark and it's about to get real messy. And one example of what I mean by it's going to get real messy is there's this rumor right now that some of these tapes are getting shopped around Hollywood behind the scenes. And no one's really clear on what that means, whether it's like for blackmail or whether it's for the news, like the media, or whether it's just like for fun. But Jaguar Wright just yesterday claimed, I mean, and she makes a lot of claims, let's be clear, but she also is very tuned into the industry. And she claimed that the tapes being shopped around right now are Diddy and Justin Bieber.
Yes, I've heard that too.
So it's,
which if that's the case, he was a minor at that time.
Underage sex tape.
I was going to say he was a minor back then.
Yeah, exactly. And allegedly, like the rumor in the industry and in this book and around is that Diddy made millions and millions and millions of dollars by selling this Bieber sex tape to a bunch of high net worth individuals back in the day when he first made it, because they were buying it like a trophy. And so that's what I mean, where it's like, it's about to get really messy in a lot of directions where like, there's gonna be a lot of collateral damage for people that don't necessarily deserve it, for a lot of people that do totally deserve it, for people that kind of have their hand in both pies, so to speak. Like Justin, for example, Bieber was taken advantage of as a child. Like he didn't deserve any of that shit. He was sold into this industry by his parents. He was like this was done to him by Diddy as a minor. It's horrific. It's so sad, especially because he went from this like just cute little kid with a great voice to like just you can see him now. He's like just so strung out and has been through so much. And fortunately, he kind of came out and found God and is like building his own path now. But no sooner does he like married and find God and build his own way out, that then this is going back to haunt him. And it's possible that while he was in that lifestyle, he might have done some evil things. Like once you're blackmailed for a wing, then it's really easy to pressure you to do more evil things on camera, and you create more and more blackmail. And so it's possible that Justin Bieber has done some really reprehensible things on camera, and they have that held over him so he can't rat on them for what they did to him.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, do you like feel sorry for him for like what was done to him? Do you also try to hold him accountable for what he did once he got older? It's like, it's going to be a whole mess of people trying to figure out what to make of it.
And the more I research this, the more I'm like, damn, how much did they lie to us about? You talked about, before I get into it, like we'll finish off the Diddy stuff, but I want you to talk to people about Michael Jackson, because this kind of ties into it as well. Because the more I look into Michael Jackson, the more I'm like, they kind of came after him because he made certain allegations.
Bingo.
I'll let you segue into it.
Yeah, let's speed run Michael Jackson. And anyone that wants the real deep dive on Michael Jackson, you go to Candace Owens' channel and you go to the video she published on Michael Jackson's birthday this year as a tribute to him, and she did the whole dive on him, and it's the best dive on the history of Michael Jackson anyone's ever done, as far as I've seen. Breaks it all down. But
it's on YouTube?
Basically, yeah, it's on her YouTube channel.
Oh shit. Okay.
But it's like a full 45-minute, like the full thing. It's all of it.
Okay.
But we all kind of know about
Just
Michael
right here,
Jackson,
chat.
how
I'll
he
show
like
you guys.
did things with kids or whatever, right? Neverland.
Mhm.
But once you actually look into what happened with Michael Jackson and what they accused him of and what actually got proven and all the allegations, that whole story starts to fall apart really fast. As in, like, yeah, he was a weird dude who had no childhood, who had like no parental figures, and he grew up to be this really weird, like, big kid of a human.
Mhm.
But like, actually, all the like people close to him testify that he was like one of the kindest, sweetest humans you'd ever meet, and that he was like wholesome in every way and a total innocent child. And all of the like children that were closest to him, people like Macaulay Culkin, as an example, they tried to get Macaulay Culkin to testify against Michael to say that he did things with him. And Macaulay Culkin said, no, I would never. Michael is like the best man I've ever known. He never did anything untowards. He's a saint. I admire him so much. And the only kids that ever brought testimony against Michael Jackson were kids that were in the process of getting some big Hollywood star deal from some Hollywood executives as they made those claims. Right. And so it's like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then the FBI did a 10-year-long investigation of Michael Jackson where they went through all of his electronic devices and hard drives. They searched his whole, they investigated him for 10 years and they found zero evidence of any wrongdoing whatsoever. And they closed the case. Basically, the entire case against Michael Jackson was just done in the media by smearing him and kind of creating allegations out of people that had incentives to say whatever they were going to say. And it just, the more you look into it, the more that whole storyline about Michael Jackson being a pedophile just starts to fall apart. And actually him being a really sweet and lovely, like, broken big child starts to
He didn't have a childhood at all.
Yeah.
He never had a childhood. Why can you kind of go into why they wanted to destroy him and destroy his legacy so badly? Because he came after some very powerful people.
That's the spice right there, is that Michael Jackson, I mean, he grew up in the music industry, right? And he knew how it worked, and he started to see how it worked, and he started to see how musicians were getting taken advantage of. And more, he saw how the Jewish record executives above him were taking advantage of him. And he started to call them out. And he started to build his own power. I mean, he was the king of pop. He had a lot of money. He started to buy shares of Sony, and he started to buy up like the rights to his own music, the rights to other artists' music. He started to like make big, powerful moves on the music industry itself. And he was at the time, he was naming the Jewish record executives that were being bad to him and to other artists in the industry. And that did not sit well with, people, who knows who. And then this whole smear campaign got launched, and that's, right. And so he fought the smear campaign for a decade and more, while he was trying to like buy his music rights and buy out Sony and create kind of this like security and safety and change the industry. And eventually that wasn't working out well enough, and the charges weren't sticking, and he was still doing his thing. And then he just mysteriously overdosed on propofol. And that happened after. So all through Michael Jackson's career, his head of security had been this guy named Bill. And Bill was like Michael Jackson's dad. Michael Jackson's actual dad kind of sold him into the industry. He never really felt like he had a dad. And so Bill really was his dad, and he referred to him that way. And Bill was like 70 when he retired, like near the end of Michael's life too. And when Bill retired, Michael wrote him this really cute, sweet note of how, like, you're like a dad to me, and I don't know how I'm going to go on in this industry without you, and I love you, and I appreciate everything you've done for me and all that shit. And then Bill's retired, and Michael's cycling through security guys. And about a year and a half, 2 years later, he gets landed with this guy, Fahim Muhammad, who would later be Diddy's head of security. And at the time, Fahim was like 21 or 22 years old. The dude had literally just graduated from college, allegedly, with a business and real estate degree. And he becomes the head of security for Michael Jackson, the most like famous musician in the entire world. And then that year, like, Michael Jackson mysteriously overdoses on propofol. And then the dude that, the head of security, immediately his very next job is to be in charge of Diddy's sexual blackmail ring. And he's been doing that ever since. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that all just adds up to be like, that was a hit. He got killed. He got allegedly unalived. And no one actually, so allegedly Michael Jackson was alone in the room and did that to himself. And then the doctor was second on the scene, and he tried to resuscitate him and couldn't. And then Fahim Muhammad was third on the scene. But like, who knows who was in that room?
Yeah, who knows?
So then it starts to repaint this new version. Like, you start to have to re-examine all these artists, like the Chester Benningtons of the music industry, right? Prince. Mm-hmm. There's and you go back to the 60s and the 70s, it just gets crazier and crazier. I'm currently reading Chaos, which is the book about Charles Manson and how he was actually probably a CIA asset, and all the 60s is weird. And then I'm also reading Strange Scenes from Laurel Canyon, which is all about how the whole hippie culture of the 60s and 70s, like, everyone that founded that culture were the kids of intelligence agents.
I don't believe it. Really looks like. Yeah, I believe it. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's a crazy whole, like,
because all the bullshit started. You want to talk about free love, feminism, the contraception pill. All of that stuff happened in the 60s, dude. It all happened.
And it all happened when there was a strong anti-war protest movement that was organized and effective and, like, kind of suit and tie. And then suddenly, like, all these new drugs that the CIA has been investigating get brought onto the scene with all this peace and love music. And that subverts the anti-war movement into this, like, whatever, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that slowly gets more and more sort of like Fugue, crazy, like. And as the hippie movement kind of starts picking up steam, it steamrolls into the Manson murders, which look an awful lot like a CIA asset doing CIA stuff. I haven't finished the book yet, but like it looks an awful lot like they use that sort of momentum of the hippie movement to sort of discredit the whole anti-war movement as these, like, psycho druggy people that you can't trust.
And right? I think it's important for the audience to understand that, guys, after World War II, the intelligence agencies, like, took a way bigger role in doing, unconventional, intelligence-based, surreptitious warfare. And that's, coups and everything else like that. The days of, like, being in a battlefield and storming beaches, and, like, those days were done, man. Like, warfare now is done through information, intelligence agencies, etc. And then, like, biding your time nice and slow, and
on
phones.
Your phone.
Yeah, and then, like, me and you were talking about this earlier. Chat, did you guys know, and I'm going to talk about this more on Fresh Fit News probably next week and maybe later on, but guys, we talked about how Israeli intelligence, intelligently pulled off, right, this operation where they had these pagers exploding in the hands of Hezbollah fighters, right? Did you guys know that they put the explosives in some of these devices 9 fucking years ago? Like, dude, that's crazy. You had a 10-year-long intelligence operation. 10-year-long operation with putting this stuff into the phones and into the walkie-talkies and then detonating them all on the same day. Wild.
Yeah. The Mossad, the whole Israeli intelligence apparatus, is the best in the world. Yeah. They're not to be trifled with.
Yep.
There's a reason why Israel is in the position that it's in today.
Speaking of which,
and also for your audience and for the chat, if anyone in this chat, in this audience, is not yet like dialed in on their history of the CIA, I personally think that out of all of the history subjects and sort of like knowledge subjects that a man can be like well versed in today, I think that the history of the CIA is pretty damn high on that list. Partially because it's fun and it's interesting, right? It'll get your brain going, but partially because it's the most important thing to understand to actually have an informed opinion about what's going on out here. Because like it's kind of easy to understand all these different parts of our world, but the CIA, the history of intelligence agencies, is about how information gets subverted and twisted and used to manipulate you. And so if you don't understand the history of the CIA and all intelligence agencies, you're a fucking tool that can get exploited and twisted, and they can sell you fake news in your phone, and you don't really understand how and why all that works. But if you learn about the history of the CIA, you start to see through all the propaganda much more easily, and it's also just really enlightening and fun. So I highly recommend that. Just kind of like dig, whether it's reading books or watching documentaries, whatever your vibe is for learning. That's like my favorite avenue that I think everyone should know about.
Yeah, no, it's incredible to realize the power of these intelligence agencies. And I would say Mossad and CIA are damn near the same, man, when it comes to competence. And I mean, look, you know, me and you, we've been critical of Israel, whatever it may be. But one thing I can't take away from them is they absolutely have one of the best intelligence agencies in the fucking world between, you know, Shin Bet, which is their version of FBI, the Mossad, which is their CIA version, Unit 8200, which you can say is kind of like their NSA. Like, it fucking incredible, you know? And then you wonder how they've been able to stay alive so long, despite the fact that, like, they're surrounded by adversaries and an entire Arab world that doesn't want them there. And it's because their intelligence agencies are so good. And I was actually going to ask you this, because I think you had talked about this on a space, you know, I want to ask you about it. Monica Lewinsky and Clinton.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that real quick for the audience?
Yeah, pull up your Google real quick.
Sure, okay.
And search Times of Israel,
okay,
Monica Lewinsky tapes.
Okay.
And maybe add Benjamin Netanyahu in there, because there's an article on the Times
Monica
of Israel
Lewinsky
that
tapes?
talks all about Bibi had the tapes. So what happened here? Anyone that doesn't know, back in the 90s, Bill Clinton's the president, right? He's the target of Jeffrey Epstein, and no one knew about Jeffrey Epstein at the time. We were just like,
shit. Hold on. It goes here. Netanyahu said to have offered Lewinsky tapes for Pollard?
Bingo. So real quick, before we get to that article, let's walk our way up to it, because that article is like the proof.
I'll pull it up when you're ready.
Sounds like a Jewish conspiracy theory, right?
Uh-huh.
Bill Clinton's in office, and you know, at the time, Jonathan Pollard, one of the biggest leaks in intelligence history in America just happened, where this Israeli spy was like deep in the White House and the government and just leaking all kinds of military secrets back to Israel, and he gets caught. And Israel wants us to send him back and let him go. And Clinton's like, no, I'm not doing that. And at the same time, they're also they are currently at the time in the 90s, they are negotiating the borders of Palestine and Israel. And it's like a very important political time back there too. It's called the Oslo Accords. And so then now we know that Clinton is being targeted by Jeffrey Epstein all throughout that presidency. And Epstein is visiting the White House and bringing girls and flying to the island. But during his presidency, Bill Clinton has this sex scandal where someone leaks to the press that he's been having phone sex and got a BJ from Monica Lewinsky. And Monica Lewinsky is Jewish. And this is just like in front of everyone's faces for the longest time, but no one was really connecting the dots and just being willing to say like, well, he's the target of an Israeli sexual blackmail ring, and then he has a sexual leak scandal with a Jewish woman. Is no one going to ask if that's related? Because I don't think anyone was asking that. And I just went and looked, and it turns out that some people asked, because somehow Bibi Netanyahu wound up with all these hours of Monica Lewinsky recorded phone calls and sex phone calls that he was trying to use to blackmail Bill Clinton to get him to extradite Jonathan Pollard. And so it's just another example of like when you check the early life, it's like, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but you know, if it walks like Epstein's network and it talks like Epstein's network, it's Epstein's network. And it is exactly what you'd expect, because if you've got Bill Clinton on all this blackmail and you want him to do something, but it's like not the most important thing in the world. It's like, it's not like the end of Israel if he doesn't release Jonathan Pollard, but you really want it. You can't like release a video of him with a kid, because that blows the whole operation wide open. Then like Bill Clinton is gone. He's never usable again. Then there's all these questions and investigations about how that happened. It's like, you know, you have to be strategic about how you release blackmail to actually leverage someone to do what you want.
Yep.
And releasing the Monica Lewinsky tapes is the exact kind of thing that's like exactly the warning shot that you would see if they're like, listen, Bill, you got to do what we say because we have way more than this and we'll ruin you. But this isn't going to destroy you completely. Like, I'm sure you'll recover, but like, remember, we own you, right? And that's exactly what happened. Is it like totally messed with his presidency, but it wasn't the end of the world. It didn't blow up the whole operation of Jeffrey Epstein. It was just enough to sort of like remind him that he was owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
So that's another example of just like when you see something that looks like,
I can pull up that article
a
now,
pattern,
by the way.
you should search it and look into it and see if the pattern is real.
So I have the article
it is.
here. It says Netanyahu said to have offered Lewinsky tapes for Pollard. So basically, and this comes in 2014, July 23rd, 2014. So Pollard, as we know, famously got back to Israel in 2020. You know, and Netanyahu went ahead and met him at the fucking tarmac, and he rode
our boy
on.
Trump went and pardoned him.
Yeah.
Or, finished his sentence. What do you call it? Commuted.
Yeah, he basically gave him like what the fuck? Yeah, he commuted the rest of the sentence or whatever.
Yeah.
Or pardon him, whatever. So was it because these tapes wouldn't go public, you think was a part of it?
Why Trump commuted the sentence?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Because this article is from that
This is
year,
from
just because
2014.
journalists they didn't really uncover the story and publish the story until much later.
Okay.
But the article is saying that back during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, that's when Netanyahu was trying to blackmail Clinton with the tapes.
Gotcha.
I assume that Trump commuted his sentence just because he has way too much love for Israel.
Well, also
Maybe
the other
he's
thing to
blackmailed,
know,
maybe he's got, I don't know what's
the
going on.
Oslo Accords, right? We're not like, and Netanyahu never wanted peace with Palestine. You know, he's been caught
Not one
admitting
bit.
this. He's been caught admitting, like, on video, yeah, I did everything I could to sabotage the Oslo Accords. We all know that he had a hand in killing Yitzhak Rabin, who was obviously the person that made peace and sat there with Yasser Arafat in the 90s. So that makes sense. It makes absolute sense that Netanyahu would have these tapes and be like, look, motherfucker, we don't want the Oslo Accords because we're not going to make peace with Yasser Arafat and the Palestinians. So that makes absolute sense that he would do that. And then this guy that killed Yitzhak Rabin, what was he? A far-right activist that obviously was more along the lines of Netanyahu's way of thinking. And the guy, I think is the chief of security or something like that. Like, he has a picture, like, he also, like, advocated for violence against Yitzhak Rabin, and he's in power right now under Netanyahu. So I have no doubt in my mind that Netanyahu had a hand in getting Yitzhak Rabin assassinated, because Yitzhak Rabin was for peace in Israel, and Netanyahu doesn't want a two-state solution at all.
Yeah.
At all.
No, he wants greater Israel.
He wants greater Israel.
He wants biblical prophecies or Torah prophecies, whatever they call them.
Yeah. So that makes absolute sense that that Netanyahu would leverage that against Clinton, because Clinton was real big on trying to bring peace in Palestine. Right? And that's a big W for him. The Oslo Accords was like a big thing in the 90s.
It was one of his biggest things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the better sort of like points of progress that we've ever seen since Israel first started murdering Palestinians over there.
Yeah, look, I'll even show the picture, like this famous picture right here, guys. You can see here, you can see Yitzhak Rabin shaking hands with Yasser Arafat, which is like fucking unheard of, right? And you can see Bill
it might be
Clinton
the
right
most
there in the middle.
famous photo from the entire Palestine-Israeli conflict.
Yeah, this was a big deal. I think this deal, the Oslo Accords, this is what got Yitzhak Rabin killed, because they called him a traitor. That he was hated in Israel for this, and I think this truly got him assassinated. Like, and Yasser Arafat got a lot of heat for this too, for trying to make peace with the Israelis. So yeah, this is a very famous picture. You can see Clinton, of course, got to be in the middle. But this is something that I'm not gonna lie. This is a huge accomplishment for Clinton in his presidency. So.
Yeah, that's where I want to hope and I want to believe that Trump's take on Israel is just a strategic insider. Like, yeah, he shills for them, and yeah, he does have like
Shills for them hard, dude.
relationships
Hurts
with
my
them and all
soul.
that. And I want to believe that he still is at least better on it, but it really doesn't look that way. Every day it's like, bro, don't say, what are you doing, dude? Like, just shut up.
Let me
We were
ask you
ready to
this.
murder you.
TikTok, you made a fucking awesome video on this. I think I texted you and I said, yo, this was great work. Can you talk real quick and then we'll close this thing out on who's trying to buy TikTok right now?
Oh yeah, baby.
You made a whole video on this shit.
We'll speed run the older stuff and we'll get to where we are now.
Sure.
Because
Take your time, bro. There's no rush.
right,
I just don't
TikTok-
want to hold you up. You could go all day. We could chat here all day, bro. I just don't want to hold you up. So go ahead.
No, yeah, this is a perfect place to wrap it up too. This is like, I mean, this will take a few minutes, but this is a perfect
Take your time,
wrap
bro.
up here.
Take your time.
Because if everyone remembers, TikTok came on the scene from abroad, right? Like the American social media space has been controlled by the intelligence agencies for quite some time. Like ever since YouTube first started, and there was like 1 or 2 years when there was kind of like the Wild West of like you could post anything on there and it was rad. And then eventually started to get, like locked down, and Facebook got locked down, and Twitter is locked down.
Zuckerberg proved this
and
with that letter he wrote that like the government absolutely has a say in content moderation. That was a fucking,
Yep.
we've all known it, but that proved it with the COVID stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like at the time we didn't know it, but our whole media space was controlled. But TikTok grew up abroad. And then they moved that infrastructure in and they founded this like the American version of it. But it came in already funded and already with popularity and users. And it just took America by storm, and it was uncontrolled all of a sudden. And so suddenly, and this is like the golden era of TikTok, right? When it first came on the scene, the first 3 or 4 years, because it wasn't controlled by the intelligence agencies. It wasn't censored by us. And it was just like this viral machine of content that has this download button that inherently makes content uncensorable, because everyone can download each other's videos and repost them a million times over. And so stuff can just disperse infinitely. And that was a huge freaking problem for the American government. And so they quickly started manufacturing this narrative of like, it's this Chinese company and China is going to infiltrate our kids' brains and infiltrate our government and steal our data and all this other fear mongering. And that culminated in the first TikTok trials, like back in like March of last year, I think it was. And this is where we got what was called Project Texas, right? Because at first it was like, it's China, that's the problem. And so they agreed to do this thing where they would bring all of TikTok's data centers into Texas and give oversight of all of TikTok's data centers and all of their algorithms to Oracle Corporation, meaning that like nothing is leaving the mainland US, nothing is going out. There's no way for China to get access to the data. It's 100% controlled by Oracle, and Oracle is 100% a CIA corporation. It's like one of the top 10 largest corporations in America. It was founded by Larry Ellison, who was an ex-CIA operative where he used to run a cyber company called Oracle for the CIA. It was like Oracle Project.
Makes sense.
He closed down the Oracle Project at the CIA, and then the next year he founded a corporation called Oracle, totally not affiliated with the CIA, except that it was a tech company that was funded by the CIA, because
of course
that's what they do.
You're a conspiracy theorist.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm just a conspiracy, just like tinfoil there. But Oracle is in charge of TikTok's data and all of their algorithms. And that was about when I got on TikTok. And that's when everyone started to get censored. And that's when you start to get these AIs going through TikTok, just taking videos down like crazy, just because you said the wrong word. Right. So that's like the end of the like early age of TikTok. And it entered this middle phase of censorship. And then October 7th happened. And even with that Oracle level of control, even with videos getting banned like hell, TikTok just blew up with pro-Palestine like content. And you could look at the hashtags of what hashtags were suppressed and how videos were all getting taken down that were pro-Palestine. That's like why watermelon means Palestine, is because TikTok was censoring anything with a Palestine flag, anything that said Palestine, anything that sounded Palestine, like whatever it was. And eventually people started using watermelon to mean Palestine, right? Like that's the level of censorship that was happening. And despite that, it was like 90% pro-Palestine content all over TikTok and only 10% pro-Israel content.
Yeah.
And they couldn't lock it down.
Even
like
the ADL
they
admitted
couldn't
this.
do it.
Even the ADL was saying this. Like Jonathan Greenblatt like had a whole meltdown saying that like TikTok is anti-Semitic.
And that meltdown got leaked, right? The audio of Jonathan Greenblatt at the ADL got leaked. And there was a couple other leaks too of just like basically we realized that the Jewish lobbying groups, the Israeli lobby, was having a huge issue with the TikTok thing. We have a major, major, major TikTok issue, I think is the quote, right? And so that's where we got the second TikTok trial come up. And obviously it was still because of China. And like, even though it's Project Texas now, China is the big problem.
Yep.
And that resulted in this like mandatory sale of TikTok. Like you have to sale or divest, whatever it is, right? And while that's happening, in the background, Steve Mnuchin, who is an early lifer from, I think, the Trump administration, maybe the Obama, he's like kind of a deep state, like early lifer, endless government guy.
Yeah.
That was getting he was shopping around for a bunch of friends. Like the ex-head of Mossad was one of his friends that he solicited to join him in this investment opportunity, as well as a couple of other like rabbis and Israelis and Jewish people. And they were going to get a whole bunch of money together and buy TikTok was his goal. So far, TikTok has not announced that they're going to sell. They're fighting it and all that. But like, you know, so you got Israel trying to ban TikTok because they've got a TikTok problem.
Yeah.
You know, then the U.S. government suddenly magically brings this problem with TikTok. Had nothing to do with their APAC money. And then while they're trying to force TikTok to sell, Steve Mnuchin is getting all of his Zionist buddies together to try to buy TikTok so that it can be. I think YouTube will let me say Jew talk. Yeah. I think they'll let me say Jew talk. They probably won't even be able to hear my words well enough. But like, that's what they're trying to do. And that, cause, you know, that's how all of these controlled platforms are. It's like, you're not allowed to criticize Israel. You're not allowed to criticize what they're doing over there or any of the other stuff. And they're trying to make TikTok like that too. And they're trying to do that to X as well with their advertiser boycotts, with their like ball and chain to the wall. Like Elon, come kiss the wall, put on the hat, like apologize to us. Because free speech is a serious problem when what you're doing is bombing hundreds of kids every day. Yeah. In broad daylight. Like, free speech is a huge problem.
It's a huge problem. And then you like, and the thing is with TikTok is it's used by the youth, man. It's incredibly popular app. Like, you know, me and you are a bit older, so like we might not be like the prime demographic users, but like if you want to talk about like the youth, like the people in their 20s, the teenagers, kids, bro, they're all on TikTok. They're not on fucking YouTube and Rumble like we are mostly. Like, they're on TikTok predominantly, and they're just getting bite-sized stuff. So this is a huge problem for them as far as like, you know, swaying public opinion. And obviously a war like this, a conflict like this, you need public opinion, you need the media on your side, etc. I mean, we've already seen, you know, a lot of the lies that came out from October 7th, you know, from the casualty numbers, etc. So, this is it's interesting that like when you do the research and you figure out who's trying to procure TikTok, you're like, oh, okay, and no surprise every single time.
Yeah, it kind of all comes back around, but it makes sense when it's like, if you look at the world today, people are always complaining. It's like, not everything is Israel, bro. It's like, well, yeah, not everything.
Of course
but
not. Yeah.
If you think about it, Israel is the country running a global blackmail ring that's targeting presidents and princes and the CEOs of all the biggest companies. Like, that level of power means that they have their hands in basically every pot. It means they have people in the media industry blackmailed, the banking industry blackmailed, every industry you can imagine, they've got people blackmailed. So
well,
it's
Epstein
like,
proved this,
in
right?
some ways, everything does lead back to them because they're effing with everything, because they need everyone to not talk about how evil their genocide is.
Yeah. I mean, Epstein proved that. I mean, he had powerful people compromised, right? Left, you know, up and down. He didn't go to jail. I mean, even Alex Acosta, the former United States attorney for the Southern District of Florida, was like, "Yeah, I was told to stand down. He's intelligence." What the fuck does that mean, right?
Yeah.
So
it only means one thing.
It only means one thing.
And actually, there's one other thing when you're talking about how Mossad and CIA are really good, and they're kind of both. Like, there's one aspect of Mossad that CIA does not have, and CIA realized this early on, and they started going to Mossad for help with this. Is that when you're trying to, especially in the age of like human intelligence being the king,
don't they have the most
Like,
assassinations?
you know, when you're trying to recruit spies,
of any
like
agency?
you're trying to recruit a Russian double agent, you kind of need someone that can blend in. Like, you can't send a white dude to Africa and expect him to blend in as a spy, right? Yeah. You need a black dude. And the thing about Judaism and Israel is that there's Jews everywhere, and there's Jews that look like everyone, and there's already Jews in every single country. Yeah. And it's like, oh no, like, let's be real. Jewish people are inherently loyal to their faith and their country. Not all of them are loyal
Which
to
is a
Israel
good thing.
over their own
I wish
country,
we had that. That's a good
but
thing.
many are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish
yeah,
we
it's
had that in
badass.
America.
It's like the most incredible like loyalty you could ever have.
Yeah.
And it's also like
Wish we
based
had
on their
that shit.
cultural history, it makes sense that they would have this like strong tie to hold them all together. That's just like their history.
Yeah.
That's not anti-Semitic. That's like Jews are proud of that, and they should be.
Yeah.
The problem is when that gets used by an organized crime ring, like a trafficking organization and or a like maniacal dictator kind of government over in Israel, and they start exploiting that and approaching them and being like, hey, you're Jewish and we are the Jewish state. How do you want to work with me in order to do a little thing here or there? And so suddenly it becomes really easy and obvious because like let's be real. If you're in Mossad and you need to go to America and recruit an asset, who are you going to approach? The Jewish guy or anyone else? It's like, duh, you're going to approach the Jewish guy.
Well, look at
'cause
God's
he's
side.
probably
He
already
brags
gonna be
about it.
hyped on you.
Like, look at God's side. He brags about it, right? And he's an Arab speaking, Jewish guy, and he talked.
I mean,
about
a lot
how
of
he
powerful
would,
Jewish people don't even need to be recruited because there are like Ben Shapiro, whether he's recruited or not, he's already doing the job. Like, because Jewish people are already incentivized to work on behalf of Israel and Israel's future. And so it's like not a far cry from that mechanism to go to like, yeah, like, have you been approached? Like, are you acting on behalf of Israel or on behalf of America? Like, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like the Mossad is unique among the intelligence agencies because Judaism is dispersed amongst the races and the countries already. And so there's this funny sort of like extra layer to Israel and Judaism and Mossad that the other countries and religions and intelligence agencies don't really have.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we need to do better as Americans is like have that same like pride and nationalism and,
Absolutely.
adherence to
But
our country.
if only there wasn't some forces subverting American nationalism
yeah.
and, blaming American nationalism as like Nazism and evil and right. Like we've got a lot of forces in our country telling us that nationalism is evil.
Yeah, no, for real. Matter of fact, fuck it. Let's go to Rumble real quick so we could like finish off this conversation.
Yeah, let's wrap it up on Rumble.
Because I got some shit I want to say as well. Guys, come on over to Rumble, rumble.com/freshfit, and we're going to end the conversation there. And then I'm also going to watch the most banned documentary ever on Council Club right after. We're gonna keep this thing going. No girls, just straight knowledge, straight talking. So guys, come on over to Rumble real quick. Also, before we get off on YouTube.
Girls can't handle the hurricane.
They can't. Before we get off YouTube, guys, please do me a favor. Go check out Ian on Twitter and on TikTok. He also has a YouTube channel. It's Ian Carroll, I think, on everything. And then on Twitter, it's Canceled Co., right?
Cancel Cloco. Because my original brand name was Cancel This Clothing Company on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
And then when I got on Twitter, that was too long. So my Twitter is Cancel Cloco.
Yeah. So guys, come on over to Rumble because we're going to talk a little bit more about the intelligence agencies and stuff like that. And obviously, we kept it somewhat clean here on YouTube. So come on over Rumble, rumble.com/freshfit. Let me drop the link for everybody in here. And we'll stay up on X as well because X is free speech, so I'm not going to worry about none over there on X. So you guys can watch me on either X or on Rumble. Do you mind retweeting the space real quick too, Ian? I tagged you.
Man.
Or sorry, the video. Sorry, the video. Let me go ahead and drop the link here for you ninjas, though. Come on over to Rumble, guys. I'm dropping the link on both Fresh to Fit and on Fed Reacts. But we covered the Diddy stuff, the Trump stuff. Now we're going to get into intel agencies and close out from there. Guys, come on over. Rumble.